Lan came down the stairs, telling the company to dismount and lead their horses after him through the fog. Again they had to trust that the warder knew where he was going. The fog swirled around Rand's knees, hiding his feet, obscuring everything more than a yard away. The fog was not as heavy as it had been outside the town, but he could barely make out his companions. Still no human stirred in the night except for them. A few more windows than before showed a light, but the thick mist turned most of them to dim patches, and as often as not, that hazy glow hanging in the grey was all that was visible. Other houses, revealing a little more, seemed to float on a sea of cloud or to thrust abruptly out of the mist, while their neighbours remained hidden so that they could have stood alone for miles around. Rand moved stiffly from the ache of the long ride, wondering if there was any way he could walk the rest of the way to Baerlon. Not that walking was much better than riding at that moment, of course, but even so, his feet were almost the only part of him that was not sore. At least he was used to walking. Only once did anyone speak loudly enough for Rand to hear clearly. "You must handle it," Moiraine said in answer to something unheard from Lan. "He will remember too much as it is, and no help for it. If I stand out in his thoughts?" Rand grumpily shifted his now sodden cloak on his shoulders, keeping close with the others. Mat and Perrin grumbled to themselves, muttering under their breaths, with bitten-off exclamations whenever one stubbed a toe on something unseen. Tom Merrilin grumbled too, words like hot meal and fire and mulled wine reaching Rand, but neither the warder nor the Aes Sedai took notice. Egwene marched along without a word, her back straight and her head high. It was a somewhat painfully hesitant march, to be sure, for she was as unused to riding as the rest. She was getting her adventure, he thought glumly, and as long as it lasted, he doubted if she would notice little things like fog or damp or cold. There must be a difference in what you saw, it seemed to him, depending on whether you sought adventure or had it forced on you. The stories could no doubt make galloping through a cold fog, with a drag car, and the light alone knew what else chasing you, sound thrilling. Egwene might be feeling a thrill. He only felt cold and damp, and glad to have a village around him again, even if it was Taren Ferry. Abruptly he walked into something large and warm in the murk, Lan's stallion. The warder and Moiraine had stopped, and the rest of the party did the same, patting their mounts as much to comfort themselves as the animals. The fog was a little thinner here, enough for them to see one another more clearly than they had in a long while, but not enough to make out much more. Their feet were still hidden by low billows like grey floodwater. The houses seemed to have all been swallowed. Cautiously, Rand led Cloud forward a little way and was surprised to hear his boots scrape on wooden planks. The ferry landing. He backed up carefully, making the grey back as well. He had heard what the Taren Ferry landing was like, a bridge that led nowhere except to the ferry boat. The Taren was supposed to be wide and deep, with treacherous currents that could pull under the strongest swimmer, much wider than the winespring water, he supposed. With the fog added in, it was a relief when he felt dirt under his feet again. A fierce hissed from Lan, as sharp as the fog. The warder gestured at them as he dashed to Perrin's side and threw back the stocky youth's cloak, exposing the great axe. Obediently, if still not understanding, Rand tossed his own cloak over his shoulder to show his sword. As Lan moved swiftly back to his horse, bobbing lights appeared in the mist and muffled footsteps approached. 6 stolid-faced men in rough clothes followed Master Hightower. The torches they carried burned away a patch of fog around them. When they stopped, all of the party from Eamon's Field could be plainly seen, the lot of them surrounded by a grey wall that seemed thicker for the torchlight reflected from it. The ferryman examined them, his narrow head tilted, nose twitching like a weasel sniffing the breeze for a trap. Lamb leaned against his saddle with apparent casualness, but one hand rested ostentatiously on the long hilt of his sword. There was an air about him of a metal spring, compressed, waiting. Rand hurriedly copied the warder's pose, at least insofar as putting his hand on his sword. He did not think he could achieve that deadly-seeming slouch. They'd probably laugh if I tried. Perrin eased his axe in its leather loop and planted his feet deliberately. Mat put a hand to his quiver, though Rand was not sure what condition his bowstring was in after being out in all this damp. Tom Merrilin stepped forward grandly and held up one empty hand, turning it slowly. Suddenly he gestured with a flourish, and a dagger twirled between his fingers. The hilt slapped into his palm, and, abruptly nonchalant, he began trimming his fingernails. A low, delighted laugh floated from Moiraine. Egwene clapped as if watching a performance at festival, then stopped and looked abashed, though her mouth twitched with a smile just the same. Hightower seemed far from amused. He stared at Tom, then cleared his throat loudly. There was mention made of more gold for the crossing. He looked around at them again, a sullen, sly look. What you gave me before is in a safe place now here. It's none of it where you can get at it. The rest of the gold, Lan told him, goes into your hand when we're on the other side. The leather purse hanging at his waist clinked as he gave it a little shake. For a moment the ferryman's eyes darted, but at last he nodded. "Let's be about it then," he muttered, and stalked out onto the landing, followed by his 6 helpers. The fog burned away around them as they moved. Grey tendrils closed in behind, quickly filling where they had been. Rand hurried to keep up. The ferry itself was a wooden barge with high sides, bordered by a ramp that could be raised to block off the end. Ropes as thick as a man's wrist ran along each side of it, ropes fastened to massive posts at the end of the landing and disappearing into the night over the river. The ferryman's helpers stuck their torches in iron brackets on the ferry's sides, waited while everyone led their horses aboard, then pulled up the ramp. The deck creaked beneath hooves and shuffling feet, and the ferry shifted with the weight. Hightower muttered half under his breath, growling for them to keep the horses still and stay to the center, out of the haulers' way. He shouted at his helpers, chivying them as they readied the ferry to cross, but the men moved at the same reluctant speed, whatever he said, and he was half-hearted about it, often cutting off in mid-shout to hold his torch high and peer into the fog. Finally he stopped shouting altogether and went to the bow, where he stood staring into the mist that covered the river. He did not move until one of the haulers touched his arm. Then he jumped, glaring. "What? Oh, you, is it? Ready? About time. Well, man, what are you waiting for?" He waved his arms, heedless of the torch and the way the horses whickered and tried to move back. Cast off. Give way. Move! The man slouched off to comply, and Hightower peered once more into the fog ahead, rubbing his free hand uneasily on his coat front. The ferry lurched as its moorings were loosed, and the strong current caught it, then lurched again as the guide ropes held it. The haulers, 3 to a side, grabbed hold of the ropes at the front of the ferry and laboriously began walking toward the back, muttering uneasily as they edged out onto the grey-cloaked river. The landing disappeared as mist surrounded them, tenuous streamers drifting across the ferry between the flickering torches. The barge rocked slowly in the current. Nothing except the steady tread of the haulers, forward to take hold of the ropes and back down again pulling, gave a hint of any other movement. No one spoke. The villagers kept as close to the center of the ferry as they could. They had heard the Taren was far wider than the streams they were used to. The fog made it infinitely vaster in their minds. After a time, Rand moved closer to Lan. Rivers a man could not wade or swim or even see across were nervous-making to someone who had never seen anything broader or deeper than a waterwood pond. "Would they really have tried to rob us?" he asked quietly. He acted more as if he were afraid we would rob him. The warder eyed the ferryman and his helpers. None appeared to be listening before answering just as softly. With the fog to hide them, well, when what they do is hidden, men sometimes deal with strangers in ways they wouldn't if there were other eyes to see. And the quickest to harm a stranger are the soonest to think a stranger will harm them. This fellow, I believe he might sell his mother to Trollocs for stew meat if the price was right. I'm a little surprised, you ask. I heard the way people in Eamon's Field speak of those from Taren Ferry. Yes, but, well, everyone says they. But I never thought they would, actually. Rand decided he had better stop thinking that he knew anything at all of what people were like beyond his own village. He might tell the Fade we crossed on the ferry, he said at last. Maybe he'll bring the Trollocs over after us. Lan chuckled dryly. Robbing a stranger is one thing, dealing with a halfman, something else again. Can you really see him ferrying Trollocs over, especially in this fog, no matter how much gold was offered? Or even talking to a Murdral, if he had any choice? Just the thought of it would keep him running for a month. I don't think we have to worry very much about dark friends in Taren Ferry. Not here. We are safe, for a time at least. From this lot anyway. Watch yourself. Hightower had turned from peering into the fog ahead. Pointed face pushed forward and torch held high, he stared at Lan and Rand as if seeing them clearly for the first time. Deck planks creaked under the hauler's feet, and the occasional stamp of a hoof. Abruptly, the ferryman twitched as he realized they were watching him, watching them. With a leap, he spun back to looking for the far bank, or whatever it was he sought in the fog. "Say no more," Lan said so softly, Rand almost could not understand. "These are bad days to speak of Trollocs or dark friends or the father of lies, with strange ears to hear. Such talk can bring worse than the dragon's fangs scrawled on your door." Rand felt no desire to go on with his questions. Gloom settled on him even more than it had before. Dark friends. As if Fades and Trollocs and Dragcar were not enough to worry about. At least you could tell a Trolloc at sight. Abruptly, pilings loomed shadowy in the mist before them. The ferry thudded against the far bank, and then the haulers were hurrying to lash the craft fast and let down the ramp at that end with a thump, while Mat and Perrin announced loudly that the Taren was not half as wide as they had heard. Lan led his stallion down the ramp, followed by Moiraine and the others. As Rand, the last, took Cloud down behind Baelor, Master Hightower called out angrily, "Here now, here. Where's my gold? It shall be paid." Moraine's voice came from somewhere in the mist. Rand's boots clumped from the ramp to a wooden landing. "And a silver mark for each of your men," the Sedai added, "for the quick crossing." The ferryman hesitated, face pushed forward as if he smelled danger, but at the mention of silver the haulers roused themselves. Some paused to seize a torch, but they all thumped down the ramp before Hightower could open his mouth. With a sullen grimace, the ferryman followed his crew. Cloud's hooves clumped hollowly in the fog as Rand made his way carefully along the landing. The grey mist was as thick here as over the river. At the foot of the landing, the warder was handing out coins, surrounded by the torches of Hightower and his fellows. Everyone else except Moiraine waited just beyond, in an anxious cluster. The Aes Sedai stood looking at the river, though what she could see was beyond Rand. With a shiver, he hitched up his cloak, sodden as it was. He was really out of the two rivers now, and it seemed much farther away than the width of a river. "There," Lan said, handing a last coin to Hightower. As agreed. He did not put up his purse, and the ferrety-faced man eyed it greedily. With a loud creak, the landing shivered. Hightower jerked upright, head swiveling back toward the mist-cloaked ferry. The torches remaining on board were a pair of dim, fuzzy points of light. The landing groaned, and with a thunderous crack of snapping wood, the twin glows lurched, then began to revolve. Egwene cried out wordlessly, and Tom cursed. "It's loose," Hightower screamed. Grabbing his haulers, he pushed them toward the end of the landing. "The ferry's loose, you fools. Get it, get it." The haulers stumbled a few steps under Hightower's shoves, then stopped. The faint lights on the ferry spun faster, then faster still. The fog above them swirled, sucked into a spiral. The landing trembled. The cracking and splintering of wood filled the air as the ferry began breaking apart. "Whirlpool," one of the haulers said, his voice filled with awe. No whirlpools on the Taren. Hightower sounded empty. "Never been a whirlpool? An unfortunate occurrence." Moraine's voice was hollow in the fog that made her a shadow as she turned from the river. "Unfortunate," Lan agreed in a flat tone. "It seems you'll be carrying no one else across the river for a time. An ill thing that you lost your craft in our service." He delved again into his purse, ready in his hand. "This should repay you." For a moment Hightower stared at the gold, glinting in Lan's hand in the torchlight, then his shoulders hunched and his eyes darted to the others he had carried across. Made indistinct by the fog, the Eamon's fielders stood silently. With a frightened, inarticulate cry, the ferryman snatched the coins from Lan, whirled, and ran into the mist. His haulers were only half a step behind him, their torches quickly swallowed as they vanished upriver. "There is nothing further to hold us here," the Aes Sedai said, as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Leading her white mare, she started away from the landing, up the bank. Ram stood staring at the hidden river. It could have been happenstance. No whirlpools, he said, but it. Abruptly, he realized everyone else had gone. Hurriedly, he scrambled up the gently sloping bank. In the space of 3 paces, the heavy mist faded away to nothing. He stopped dead and stared back. Along a line running down the shore, thick grey hung on one side. On the other shone a clear night sky, still dark, though the sharpness of the moon hinted at dawn not far off. The warder and the Aes Sedai stood conferring beside their horses, a short distance beyond the border of the fog. The others huddled a little apart. Even in the moonlit darkness, their nervousness was palpable. All eyes were on Lan and Moiraine, and all but Egwene were leaning back as if torn between losing the pair and getting too close. Rand trotted the last few spans to Egwene's side, leading Cloud, and she grinned at him. He did not think the shine in her eyes was all from moonlight. "It follows the river as if drawn with a pen," Moiraine was saying in satisfied tones. "There are not 10 women in Tar Valon who could do that unaided, not to mention from the back of a galloping horse." "I don't mean to complain, Moiraine Sedai," Tom said, sounding oddly diffident for him, "but would it not have been better to cover us a little further, say to Baerlon? If that drag car looks on this side of the river, we'll lose everything we have gained." "Dragcar are not very smart, Master Merylin," the Aes Sedai said dryly. "Fearsome and deadly dangerous, and with sharp eyes, but little intelligence. It will tell the Myrddraal that this side of the river is clear, but the river itself is cloaked for miles in both directions. The Myrddraal will know the extra effort that cost me. He will have to consider that we may be escaping down the river, and that will slow him. He will have to divide his efforts. The fog should hold long enough that he will never be sure that we did not travel at least part way by boat. I could have extended the fog a little way toward Baerlon instead, but then the drag car could search the river in a matter of hours, and the Myrddraal would know exactly where we were headed." Tom made a puffing sound and shook his head. "I apologize, Aes Sedai. I hope I did not offend." Aes Sedai." Matt stopped to swallow audibly. "The ferry. Did you? I mean, I don't understand why." He trailed off weakly, and there was a silence so deep that the loudest sound Rand heard was his own breathing. Finally, Moiraine spoke, and her voice filled the empty silence with sharpness. "You all want explanations, but if I explained my every action to you, I would have no time for anything else." In the moonlight, the Aes Sedai seemed taller somehow, almost looming over them. "Know this. I intend to see you safely in Tar Valon. That is the one thing you need to know. If we keep standing here," Lan put in, "the drag car will not need to search the river." If I remember correctly, he led his horse on up the riverbank. As if the warder's movement had loosened something in his chest, Rand drew a deep breath. He heard others doing the same, even Tom, and remembered an old saying, "Better to spit in a wolf's eye than to cross an Aes Sedai." Yet the tension had lessened. Moiraine was not looming over anyone. She barely reached his chest. "I don't suppose we could rest a bit," Perrin said hopefully, ending with a yawn. Egwene, slumped against Bella, sighed tiredly. It was the first sound, even approaching a complaint that Rand had heard from her. Maybe now she realizes this isn't some grand adventure after all. Then he guiltily remembered that, unlike him, she had not slept the day away. "We do need to rest, Moiraine Sedai," he said. "After all, we have ridden all night." "Then I suggest we see what Lan has for us," Moiraine said. "Come." She led them on, up the bank, into the woods beyond the river. Bare branches thickened the shadows. A good 100 spans from the Taren they came, to a dark mound beside a clearing. Here, a long-ago flood had undermined and toppled an entire stand of leatherleafs, washing them together into a great, thick tangle, an apparently solid mass of trunks and branches and roots. Moiraine stopped, and suddenly a light appeared low to the ground, coming from under the heap of trees. Thrusting a stub of a torch ahead of him, Lan crawled out from under the mound and straightened. "No unwelcome visitors," he told Moiraine, "and the wood I left is still dry, so I started a small fire. We will rest warm." "You expected us to stop here?" Egwene said in surprise. "It seemed a likely place," Lan replied. "I like to be prepared just in case." Moiraine took the torch from him. "Will you see to the horses? When you are done, I will do what I can about everyone's tiredness. Right now I want to talk to Egwene." "Egwene?" Rand watched the two women crouch down and disappear under the great pile of tree trunks. There was a low opening, barely big enough to crawl into. The light of the torch vanished. Lan had included feed bags and a small quantity of oats in the supplies, but he stopped the others from unsaddling their horses. Instead, he produced the hobbles he had also packed. They would rest easier without the saddles, but if we must leave quickly, there may be no time to replace them. They don't look to me like they need any rest, Perrin said, as he attempted to slip a feed bag over his mount's muzzle. The horse tossed its head before allowing him to put the straps in place. Rand was having difficulties with Cloud too, taking 3 tries before he could get the canvas bag over the grey's nose. They do, Lan told them. He straightened from hobbling his stallion. Oh, they can still run. They will run at their fastest if we let them, right up to the second they drop dead from exhaustion they never even felt. I would rather Moiraine Sedai had not had to do what she did, but it was necessary. He patted the stallion's neck, and the horse bobbed his head as if acknowledging the warder's touch. We must go slowly with them for the next few days until they recover, more slowly than I would like. But with luck it will be enough. Is Matt swallowed audibly. Is that what she meant? About our tiredness? Rand patted Cloud's neck and stared at nothing. Despite what she had done for Tam, he had no desire for the Aes Sedai to use the power on him. Light, she as much as admitted sinking the ferry. Something like it. Lan chuckled wryly, but you will not have to worry about running yourself to death. Not unless things get a lot worse than they are. Just think of it as an extra night's sleep. The shrill scream of the drag car suddenly echoed from above the fog-covered river. Even the horses froze. Again it came, closer now, and again, piercing Rand's skull like needles. Then the cries were fading, until they had faded away entirely. Luck, Lamb breathed. It searches the river for us. He gave a quick shrug and abruptly sounded matter-of-fact. Let's get inside. I could do with some hot tea and something to fill my belly. Rand was the first to crawl on hands and knees through the opening in the tangle of trees and down a short tunnel. At the end of it he stopped, still crouching. Ahead was an irregularly shaped space, a woody cave easily large enough to hold them all. The roof of tree trunks and branches came too low to allow any but the women to stand. Smoke from a small fire on a bed of river stones drifted up and through. The draft was enough to keep the space free of smoke, but the interweaving was too thick to let out even a glimmer of the flames. Moiraine and Egwene, their cloaks thrown aside, sat cross-legged, facing one another beside the fire. The one power, Moiraine was saying, comes from the true source, the driving force of creation, the force the Creator made to turn the wheel of time. She put her hands together in front of her and pushed them against each other. Saidin, the male half of the true source, and Saidar, the female half, work against each other and at the same time together to provide that force. Saidin, she lifted one hand, then let it drop, is fouled by the touch of the Dark One, like water with a thin slick of rancid oil floating on top. The water is still pure, but it cannot be touched without touching the foulness. Only Saidar is still safe to be used. Egwene's back was to Rand. He could not see her face, but she was leaning forward eagerly. Matt poked Rand from behind and muttered something, and he moved on into the tree cavern. Moiraine and Egwene ignored his entry. The other men crowded in behind him, tossing off damp cloaks, settling around the fire, and holding hands out to the warmth. Lan, the last to enter, pulled water bags and leather sacks from a nook in the wall, took out a kettle, and began to prepare tea. He paid no attention to what the women were saying, but Rand's friends began to stop toasting their hands and stare openly. Tom pretended that all of his interest was engaged in loading his thickly carved pipe, but the way he leaned toward the women gave him away. Moiraine and Egwene acted as if they were alone. No, Moiraine said in answer to a question Rand had missed, the true source cannot be used up, any more than the river can be used up by the wheel of a mill. The source is the river, the Aes Sedai, the water wheel. And you really think I can learn? Egwene asked. Her face shone with eagerness. Rand had never seen her look so beautiful or so far away from him. I can become an Aes Sedai? Rand jumped up, cracking his head against the low roof of logs. Tom Merrilin grabbed his arm, yanking him back down. Don't be a fool, the Gleeman murmured. He eyed the women. Neither seemed to have noticed, and the look he gave Rand was sympathetic. It's beyond you now, boy. Child, Moiraine said gently, only a very few can learn to touch the true source and use the one power. Some of those can learn to a greater degree, some to a lesser. You are one of the bare handful for whom there is no need to learn. At least, touching the source will come to you whether you want it or not. Without the teaching you can receive in Tar Valon, though, you will never learn to channel it fully, and you may not survive. Men who have the ability to touch Sedin born in them die, of course, if the Red Arjar does not find them and gentle them. Tom growled deep in his throat, and Rand shifted uncomfortably. Men like those of whom the Aes Sedai spoke were rare. He had only heard of 3 in his whole life, and thank the light, never in the Two Rivers. But the damage they did before the Aes Sedai found them was always bad enough for the news to carry, like the news of wars or earthquakes that destroyed cities. He had never really understood what the Arjars did. According to the stories, they were societies among the Aes Sedai that seemed to plot and squabble among themselves more than anything else. But the stories were clear on one point. The Red Arjar held its prime duty to be the prevention of another breaking of the world, and they did it by hunting down every man who even dreamed of wielding the one power. Mat and Perrin looked as if they suddenly wished they were back home in their beds. But some of the women die too. It is hard to learn without a guide. The women we do not find, those who live, often become, well, in this part of the world, they might become wisdoms of their villages. The Aes Sedai paused thoughtfully. The old blood is strong in Eamon's field, and the old blood sings. I knew you for what you were the moment I saw you. No Aes Sedai can stand in the presence of a woman who can channel, or who is close to her change and not feel it. She rummaged in the pouch at her belt and produced the small blue gem on a gold chain that she had earlier worn in her hair. You are very close to your change, your first touching. It will be better if I guide you through it. That way you will avoid the unpleasant effects that come to those who must find their own way. Egwene's eyes widened as she looked at the stone, and she wet her lips repeatedly. Does that have the power? Of course not, Moiraine snapped. Things do not have the power, child. Even an angriel is only a tool. This is just a pretty blue stone. But it can give off light. Here. Egwene's hands trembled as Moiraine laid the stone on her fingertips. She started to pull back, but the Aes Sedai held both her hands in one of hers and gently touched the other to the side of Egwene's head. Look at the stone, the Aes Sedai said softly. It is better this way than fumbling alone. Clear your mind of everything but the stone. Clear your mind and let yourself drift. There is only the stone and emptiness. I will begin it. Drift, and let me guide you. No thoughts. Drift. Rand's fingers dug into his knees, his jaws clenched until they hurt. She has to fail. She has to. Light bloomed in the stone, just one flash of blue, and then gone, no brighter than a firefly, but he flinched as if it had been blinding. Egwene and Moiraine stared into the stone, faces empty. Another flash came, and another, until the azure light pulsed like the beating of a heart. It's the Aes Sedai, he thought desperately. Moraine's doing it, not Egwene. One last feeble flicker, and the stone was merely a bauble again. Rand held his breath. For a moment, Egwene continued to stare at the small stone. Then she looked up at Moiraine. I thought I felt something, but perhaps you're mistaken about me. I'm sorry I wasted your time. I have wasted nothing, child. A small smile of satisfaction flitted across Moraine's lips. That last light was yours alone. It was? Egwene exclaimed, then slid immediately back into glumness. But it was barely there at all. Now you are behaving like a foolish village girl. Most who come to Tar Valon must study for many months before they can do what you just did. You may go far, perhaps even the Amlin seat one day if you study hard and work hard. You mean? With a cry of delight, Egwene threw her arms around the Aes Sedai. Oh, thank you. Ram, did you hear? I'm going to be an Aes Sedai. Before they went to sleep, Moiraine knelt by each in turn and laid her hands on their heads. Lan grumbled that he had no need and she should not waste her strength, but he did not try to stop her. Egwene was eager for the experience, Mat and Perrin clearly frightened of it and frightened to say no. Tom jerked away from the Aes Sedai's hands, but she seized his grey head with a look that allowed no nonsense. The gleeman scowled through the entire thing. She smiled mockingly once she took her hands away. His frown deepened, but he did look refreshed. They all did. Rand had drawn back into a niche in the uneven wall where he hoped he would be overlooked. His eyes wanted to slide closed once he leaned back against the timber jumble, but he forced himself to watch. He pushed a fist against his mouth to stifle a yawn. A little sleep, an hour or two, and he would be just fine. Moiraine did not forget him, though. He flinched at the coolness of her fingers on his face and said, "I don't." His eyes widened in wonder. Tiredness drained out of him like water running downhill. Aches and soreness ebbed to dim memories and vanished. He stared at her with his mouth hanging open. She only smiled and withdrew her hands. "It is done," she said, and as she stood with a weary sigh, he was reminded that she could not do the same for herself. Indeed, she only drank a little tea, refusing the bread and cheese Lan tried to press on her, before curling up beside the fire. She seemed to fall asleep the instant she wrapped her cloak around her. The others, all save Lan, were dropping asleep wherever they could find a space to stretch out, but Rand could not imagine why. He felt as if he had already had a full night in a good bed. No sooner did he lean back against the log wall, though, than sleep rolled him under. When Lan poked him awake an hour later, he felt as though he had had 3 days' rest. The warder awakened them all except Moiraine, and he sternly hushed any sound that might disturb her. Even so, he allowed them only a short stay in the snug cave of trees. Before the sun was twice its own height above the horizon, all traces that anyone had ever stopped there had been cleared away, and they were all mounted and moving north toward Baerlon, riding slowly to conserve the horses. The Aes Sedai's eyes were shadowed, but she sat her saddle upright and steady. Fog still hung thick over the river behind them, a grey wall resisting the efforts of the feeble sun to burn it away and hiding the two rivers from view. Rand watched over his shoulder as he rode, hoping for one last glimpse even of Taren Ferry until the fog bank was lost to sight. "I never thought I'd ever be this far from home," he said, when the trees at last hid both the fog and the river. "Remember when Watch Hill seemed a long way? 2 days ago, that was. It seems like forever." "In a month or two, we'll be back," Perrin said in a strained voice. "Think what we'll have to tell? Even Trollocs can't chase us forever," Matt said. "Burn me, they can't." He straightened around with a heavy sigh, slumping in his saddle as if he did not believe a word that had been said. "Men," Egwene snorted. "You get the adventure you're always prating about, and already you're talking about home." She held her head high, yet Rand noticed a tremor to her voice, now that nothing more was to be seen of the two rivers. Neither Moiraine nor Lan made any attempt to reassure them, not a word to say that of course they would come back. He tried not to think on what that might mean. Even rested, he was full enough of doubts without searching out more. Hunching in his saddle, he began a waking dream of tending the sheep alongside Tam, in a pasture with deep, lush grass and larks singing of a spring morning. And a trip into Emond's field, and Beltane the way it had been, dancing on the green with never a care beyond whether he might stumble in the steps. He managed to lose himself in it for a long time. The journey to Baerlon took almost a week. Lam muttered about the laggedness of their travel, but it was he who set the pace and forced the rest to keep it. With himself and his stallion, Mandab, he said it meant blade. In the old tongue he was not so sparing. The warder covered twice as much ground as they did, galloping ahead, his colour-shifting cloak swirling in the wind to scout what lay before them, or dropping behind to examine their back trail. Any others who tried to move at more than a walk, though, got cutting words on taking care of their animals, biting words on how well they would do afoot if the Trollocs did appear. Not even Moiraine was proof against his tongue if she let the white mare pick up her step. Aldib the mare was called, in the old tongue, West Wind, the wind that brought the spring rains. The warder's scouting never turned up any sign of pursuit or ambush. He spoke only to Moiraine of what he saw, and that quietly, so it could not be overheard, and the Aes Sedai informed the rest of them of what she thought they needed to know. In the beginning, Rand looked over his shoulder as much as he did ahead. He was not the only one. Perrin fingered his axe often, and Matt rode with an arrow nocked to his bow in the beginning. But the land behind remained empty of Trollocs or figures in black cloaks. The sky remained empty of Dragcar. Slowly, Rand began to think perhaps they really had escaped. No very great cover was to be had, even in the thickest parts of the woods. Winter clung as hard north of the Taren as it did in the two rivers. Stems of pine or fir or leatherleaf, and here and there a few spicewoods or laurels, dotted a forest of otherwise bare grey branches. Not even the elders showed a leaf. Only scattered green sprigs of new growth stood out against brown meadows beaten flat by the winter's snows. Here too much of what did grow was stinging nettles and coarse thistle and stinkweed. On the bare dirt of the forest floor, some of the last snow still hung on, in shady patches and in drifts beneath the low branches of evergreens. Everyone kept their cloaks drawn well about them, for the thin sunlight had no warmth to it, and the night cold pierced deep. No more birds flew here than in the two rivers, not even ravens. There was nothing leisurely about the slowness of their movement. The North Road, Rand continued to think of it that way, though he suspected it might have a different name here. North of the Taren still ran almost due north, but at Lan's insistence their path snaked this way and that through the forest as often as it ran along the hard-packed dirt road. A village, or a farm, or any sign of men or civilization sent them circling for miles to avoid it, though there were few enough of any of those. The whole first day, Rand saw no evidence aside from the road that men had ever been in that woods. It came to him that even when he had gone to the foot of the mountains of mist, he might not have been as far from a human habitation as he was that day. The first farm he saw, a large frame house and tall barn with high-peaked thatched roofs, a curl of smoke rising from a stone chimney, was a shock. "It's no different from back home," Perrin said, frowning at the distant buildings, barely visible through the trees. People moved around the farmyard, as yet unaware of the travelers. "Of course it is," Matt said. "We're just not close enough to see. I tell you, it's no different," Perrin insisted. "It must be. We're north of the Taren after all." "Quiet, you two," Lan growled. "We don't want to be seen, remember? This way." He turned west to circle the farm through the trees. Looking back, Rand thought Perrin was right. The farm looked much the same as any around Eamon's Field. There was a small boy toting water from the well, and older boys tending sheep behind a rail fence. It even had a curing shed for tabach. But Matt was right too. We're north of the Taren. It must be different. Always they halted while light still clung to the sky, to choose a spot sloped for drainage and sheltered from the wind that seldom died completely, only changed direction. Their fire was always small and hidden from only a few yards off, and once tea was brewed, the flames were doused and the coals buried. At their first stop, before the sun sank, Lan began teaching the boys what to do with the weapons they carried. He started with the bow. After watching Matt put 3 arrows into a knot the size of a man's head on the fissured trunk of a dead leather leaf at 100 paces, he told the others to take their turns. Perrin duplicated Matt's feat, and Rand, summoning the flame and the void, the empty calm that let the bow become a part of him, or him of it, clustered his 3, where the points almost touched one another. Matt gave him a congratulatory clap on the shoulder. "Now, if you all had bows," the warder said dryly when they started grinning, "and if the Trollocs agreed not to come so close, you couldn't use them. Gone possible with this wand. Gone possible with this wand." The grins faded abruptly. "Let me see what I can teach you in case they do come that close." He showed Perrin a bit of how to use that great bladed axe. Raising an axe to someone or something that had a weapon was not at all like chopping wood or flailing around in pretend. Setting the big apprentice blacksmith to a series of exercises, block, parry and strike, he did the same for Rand and his sword. Not the wild leaping about and slashing that Rand had in mind whenever he thought about using it, but smooth motions, one flowing into another, almost a dance. "Moving the blade is not enough," Lan said, "though some think it is. The mind is part of it, most of it. Blank your mind, sheepherder. Empty it of hate or fear, of everything. Burn them away. You others, listen to this too. You can use it with the axe or the bow, with a spear or a quarterstaff, or even your bare hands." Rand stared at him. "The flame and the void," he said wonderingly. "That's what you mean, isn't it? My father taught me about that." The warder gave him an unreadable look in return. "Hold the sword as I showed you, sheepherder. I cannot make a mud-footed villager into a blade master in an hour, but perhaps I can keep you from slicing off your own foot." Rand sighed and held the sword upright before him in both hands. Moiraine watched without expression, but the next evening she told Lan to continue the lessons. The meal at evening was always the same as at midday and breakfast: flatbread and cheese and dried meat, except that evenings they had hot tea to wash it down instead of water. Tom entertained them evenings. Lan would not let the gleeman play harp or flute, no need to rouse the countryside, the warder said, but Tom juggled and told stories. Mara and the Three Foolish Kings, or one of the hundreds about Anla the Wise Counselor, or something filled with glory and adventure like The Great Hunt of the Horn, but always with a happy ending and a joyous homecoming. Yet if the land was peaceful around them, if no Trollocs appeared among the trees, no drag car among the clouds, it seemed to Rand that they managed to raise their tension themselves whenever it was in danger of vanishing. There was the morning that Egwene awoke and began unbraiding her hair. Rand watched her from the corner of his eye as he made up his blanket roll. Every night when the fire was doused, everyone took to their blankets except for Egwene and the Aes Sedai. The two women always went aside from the others and talked for an hour or two, returning when the others were asleep. Egwene combed her hair out. 100 strokes, he counted, while he was saddling Cloud, tying his saddlebags and blanket behind the saddle. Then she tucked the comb away, swept her loose hair over her shoulder, and pulled up the hood of her cloak. Startled, he asked, "What are you doing?" She gave him a sidelong look without answering. It was the first time he had spoken to her in 2 days, he realized, since the night in the log shelter on the bank of the Taren, but he did not let that stop him. All your life you've waited to wear your hair in a braid, and now you're giving it up? Why? Because she doesn't braid hers? Aes Sedai don't braid their hair, she said simply. At least, not unless they want to. You aren't an Aes Sedai. You're Egwene Orvir from Emond's Field, and the Women's Circle would have a fit if they could see you now. Women's Circle business is none of yours, Randall Thor. And I will be an Aes Sedai, just as soon as I reach Tar Valon. He snorted. As soon as you reach Tar Valon. Why? Light, tell me that. You're no dark friend. Do you think Moiraine Sedai is a dark friend? Do you? She squared around to face him with her fists clenched, and he almost thought she was going to hit him. After she saved the village? After she saved your father? I don't know what she is, but whatever she is, it doesn't say anything about the rest of them. The stories. Grow up, Rand. Forget the stories and use your eyes. My eyes saw her sink the ferry. Deny that. Once you get an idea in your head, you won't budge even if somebody points out you're trying to stand on water. If you weren't such a light-blinded fool, you'd see. Fool, am I? Let me tell you a thing or two, Randall Thor. You are the muleyest, most wool-headed, you two trying to wake everybody inside 10 miles? The warder asked. Standing there with his mouth open, trying to get a word in edgewise, Rand suddenly realized he had been shouting. They both had. Egwene's face went scarlet to her eyebrows, and she spun away with a muttered, "Men." That seemed as much for the warder as for him. Warily, Rand looked around the camp. Everybody was looking at him, not just the warder. Mat and Perrin, with their faces white. Tom, tensed as if ready to run or fight. Moiraine. The Aes Sedai's face was expressionless, but her eyes seemed to bore into his head. Desperately, he tried to recall exactly what he had said about Aes Sedai and dark friends. "It is time to be going," Moiraine said. She turned to Aldib, and Rand shivered as if he had been let out of a trap. He wondered if he had been. 2 nights later, with the fire burning low, Mat licked the last crumbs of cheese from his fingers and said, "You know, I think we've lost them for good." Lan was off in the night, taking a last look around. Moiraine and Egwene had gone aside for one of their conversations. Tom was half dozing over his pipe, and the young men had the fire to themselves. Perrin, idly poking the embers with a stick, answered, "If we've lost them, why does Lan keep scouting?" Nearly asleep, Rand rolled over, his back to the fire. "We lost them back at Taren Ferry." Mat lay back with his fingers laced behind his head, staring at the moon-filled sky. "If they were even really after us. You think the drag car was chasing us because it liked us?" Perrin asked. "I say stop worrying about Trollocs and such," Mat went on as if Perrin had not spoken, "and start thinking about seeing the world. We're out where the stories come from. What do you think a real city is like?" "We're going to Baerlon," Rand said sleepily, but Mat snorted. "Baerlon's all very well, but I've seen that old map Master Olver has. If we turn south once we reach Caemlyn, the road leads all the way to Ilion and beyond." "What's so special about Ilion?" Perrin said, yawning. "For one thing," Mat replied, "Ilion isn't full of Aes. Say." A silence fell, and Rand was suddenly wide awake. Moiraine had come back early. Egwene was with her, but it was the Aes Sedai, standing at the edge of the firelight, who held their attention. Mat lay there on his back, his mouth still open, staring at her. Moiraine's eyes caught the light like dark, polished stones. Abruptly, Rand wondered how long she had been standing there. "The lads were just," Tom began, but Moiraine spoke right over the top of him. "A few days' respite, and you are ready to give up." Her calm, level voice contrasted sharply with her eyes. "A day or two of quiet, and already you have forgotten Winternight." "We haven't forgotten," Perrin said. "It's just." Still not raising her voice, the Aes Sedai treated him as she had the Gleeman. "Is that the way you all feel? Is that the way you all feel? You're all eager to run off to Ilion and forget about Trollocs and Halfman and Dragkar." She ran her eyes over them. That stony glint playing against the everyday tone of voice made Rand uneasy, but she gave no one a chance to speak. "The Dark One is after you three, one or all, and if I let you go running off wherever you want to go, he will take you. Whatever the Dark One wants, I oppose, so hear this and know it true. Before I let the Dark One have you, I will destroy you myself." It was her voice, so matter-of-fact, that convinced Rand. The Aes Sedai would do exactly what she said, if she thought it was necessary. He had a hard time sleeping that night, and he was not the only one. Even the Gleeman did not begin snoring till long after the last coals died. For once, Moiraine offered no help. Those nightly talks between Egwene and the Aes Sedai were a sore point for Rand. Whenever they disappeared into the darkness, aside from the rest for privacy, he wondered what they were saying, what they were doing. What was the Aes Sedai doing to Egwene? One night, he waited until the other men had all settled down, Tom snoring like a saw, cutting an oak knot. Then he slipped away, clutching his blanket around him. Using every bit of skill he had gained, stalking rabbits, he moved with the moon shadows until he was crouched at the base of a tall leather-leaf tree, thick with tough, broad leaves, close enough to hear Moiraine and Egwene, where they sat on a fallen log with a small lantern for light. "Ask," Moiraine was saying, "and if I can tell you now, I will. Understand, there is much for which you are not yet ready, things you cannot learn until you have learned other things which require still others to be learned before them. But ask what you will." "The 5 powers," Egwene said slowly. "Earth, wind, fire, water and spirit. It doesn't seem fair that men should have been strongest in wielding earth and fire. Why should they have had the strongest powers?" Moiraine laughed. "Is that what you think, child? Is there a rock so hard that wind and water cannot wear it away, a fire so strong that water cannot quench it or wine snuff it out?" Egwene was silent for a time, digging her toe into the forest floor. They, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. They were the ones who, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, who tried to free the Dark One and the Forsaken, weren't they? The male Aes Sedai? She took a deep breath and picked up speed. The women were not part of it. It was the men who went mad and broke the world. "You are afraid," Moiraine said grimly. "If you had remained in Emond's Field, you would have become wisdom in time. That was Nynaeve's plan, was it not? Or you would have sat in the women's circle and managed the affairs of Emon's Field while the village council thought it was doing so. But you did the unthinkable. You left Emon's Field, left the 2 rivers seeking adventure. You wanted to do it, and at the same time you are afraid of it, and you are stubbornly refusing to let your fear best you. You would not have asked me how a woman becomes an Aes Sedai otherwise. You would not have thrown custom and convention over the fence otherwise." "No!" Egwene protested. "I'm not afraid. I do want to become an Aes Sedai. Better for you if you are afraid, but I hope you hold to that conviction. Few women these days have the ability to become initiates, much less have the wish to." Moraine's voice sounded as if she had begun musing to herself. Surely never before 2 in 1 village. The old blood is indeed still strong in the 2 rivers. In the shadows, Rand shifted. A twig snapped under his foot. He froze instantly, sweating and holding his breath, but neither of the women looked around. "2?" Egwene exclaimed. "Who else? Is it Kari? Kari Thane? Lara Aielin?" Moiraine gave an exasperated click of her tongue, then said sternly, "You must forget I said that. Her road lies another way, I fear. Concern yourself with your own circumstances. It is not an easy road you have chosen. I will not turn back, Egwene said. Be that as it may. But you still want reassurance, and I cannot give it to you, not in the way you want. I don't understand. You want to know that Aes Sedai are good and pure, that it was those wicked men of the legends who caused the breaking of the world, not the women. Well, it was the men, but they were no more wicked than any men. They were insane, not evil. The Aes Sedai you will find in Tar Valon are human, no different from any other women except for the ability that sets us apart. They are brave and cowardly, strong and weak, kind and cruel, warm-hearted and cold. Becoming an Aes Sedai will not change you from what you are. Egwene drew a heavy breath. I suppose I was afraid of that I'd be changed by the power. That and the Trollocs, and the Fade, and, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. Moiraine Sedai, in the name of the light. Why did the Trollocs come to Aemon's field? The Aes Sedai's head swung, and she looked straight at Rand's hiding place. His breath seized in his throat. Her eyes were as hard as when she had threatened them, and he had the feeling they could penetrate the leatherleaf's thick branches. Light, what will she do if she finds me listening? He tried to melt back into the deeper shadows. With his eyes on the women, a root snagged his foot, and he barely caught himself from tumbling into dead brush that would have pointed him out with a crackle of snapping branches like fireworks. Panting, he scrambled away on all fours, keeping silent as much by luck as by anything he did. His heart pounded so hard he thought that might give him away itself. Fool, eavesdropping on an Aes Sedai. Back where the others were sleeping, he managed to slip in among them silently. Lan moved as he dropped to the ground and jerked his blanket up, but the warder settled back with a sigh. He had only been rolling over in his sleep. Rand let out a long, silent breath. A moment later, Moiraine appeared out of the night, stopping where she could study the slumbering shapes. Moonlight made a nimbus around her. Rand closed his eyes and breathed evenly, all the while listening hard for footsteps coming closer. None did. When he opened his eyes again, she was gone. When finally sleep came, it was fitful and filled with sweaty dreams where all the men in Eamon's Field claimed to be the Dragon Reborn, and all the women had blue stones in their hair like the one Moiraine wore. He did not try to overhear Moiraine and Egwene again. On into the 6th day the slow journey stretched. The warmthless sun slid slowly toward the treetops, while a handful of thin clouds drifted high to the north. The wind gusted higher for a moment, and Rand pulled his cloak back up onto his shoulders, muttering to himself. He wondered if they would ever get to Baerlon. The distance they had traveled from the river already was more than enough to take him from Taren Ferry to the White River, but Lan always said it was just a short journey whenever he was asked, hardly worth calling a journey at all. It made him feel lost. Lan appeared ahead of them in the woods, returning from one of his forays. He reined in and rode beside Moiraine, his head bent close to hers. Rand grimaced, but he did not ask any questions. Lan simply refused to acknowledge all such questions aimed at him. Only Egwene, among the others, even appeared to notice Lan's return, so used to this arrangement had they become, and she kept back too. The Aes Sedai might have begun acting as if Egwene were in charge of the Aemon's fielders, but that gave her no say when the warder made his reports. Perrin was carrying Mat's bow, wrapped in the thoughtful silence that seemed to take them all more and more as they got further from the two rivers. The horse's slow walk allowed Mat to practice juggling 3 small stones under Tom Merrilin's watchful eye. The gleeman had given lessons each night too, as well as Lan. Lan finished whatever he had been telling Moiraine, and she twisted in her saddle to look back at the others. Rand tried not to stiffen when her eyes moved across him. Did they linger on him a moment longer than on anyone else? He had the queasy feeling that she knew who had been listening in the darkness that night. "Hey Rand," Mat called, "I can juggle 4. Rand waved in reply without looking around. "I told you I'd get to 4 before you. Look!" They had topped a low hill, and below them, a scant mile away through the stark trees and the stretching shadows of evening, lay Baerlon. Rand gasped, trying to smile and gape at the same time. A log wall, nearly 20 feet tall, surrounded the town, with wooden watchtowers scattered along its length. Within, rooftops of slate and tile glinted with the sinking sun, and feathers of smoke drifted upward from chimneys. Hundreds of chimneys, There was not a thatched roof to be seen. A broad road ran east from the town, and another west, each with at least a dozen wagons and twice as many ox carts trudging toward the palisade. Farms lay scattered about the town, thickest to the north, while only a few broke the forest to the south, but they might as well not have existed so far as Rand was concerned. It's bigger than Emmons Field and Watch Hill and Devon Ride all put together. And maybe Taren Ferry too. So that's a city, Matt breathed, leaning forward across his horse's neck to stare. Perrin could only shake his head. How can so many people live in one place? Egwene simply stared. Tom Merrilin glanced at Matt, then rolled his eyes and blew out his moustaches. City, he snorted. And you, Rand, Moiraine said. What do you think of your first sight of Baerlon? I think it's a long way from home, he said slowly, bringing a sharp laugh from Matt. You have further to go yet, Moiraine said. Much further. But there is no other choice, except to run and hide and run again for the rest of your lives. And short lives they would be. You must remember that, when the journey becomes hard, you have no choice. Rand exchanged glances with Matt and Perrin. By their faces, they were thinking the same thing he was. How could she talk as if they had any choice after what she had said? The Aes Sedais made our choices. Moiraine went on as if their thoughts were not plain. The danger begins again here. Watch what you say within those walls. Above all, do not mention Trollocs or Halfmen or any such. You must not even think of the Dark One. Some in Baerlon have even less love for Aes Sedai than do the people of Emmons Field, and there may even be dark friends. Egwene gasped, and Perrin muttered under his breath. Matt's face paled, but Moiraine went on calmly. We must attract as little attention as possible. Lan was exchanging his cloak of shifting greys and greens for one of dark brown, more ordinary, though of fine cut and weave. His colour-changing cloak made a large bulge in one of his saddlebags. We do not go by our own names here, Moiraine continued. Here I am known as Alis, and Lan is Andra. Remember that. Good. Let us be within the walls before night catches us. The gates of Baerlon are closed from sundown to sunrise. Lan led the way down the hill and through the woods toward the log wall. The road passed half a dozen farms. None lay close, and none of the people finishing their chores seemed to notice the travelers, ending at heavy wooden gates bound with wide straps of black iron. They were closed tight, even if the sun was not down yet. Lan rode close to the wall and gave a tug to a frayed rope hanging down beside the gates. A bell clanged on the other side of the wall. Abruptly, a wizened face under a battered cloth cap peered down suspiciously from atop the wall, glaring between the cut-off ends of two of the logs, a good 3 spans over their heads. What's all this, eh? It's too late in the day to be opening this gate. Too late, I say. Go around to the White Bridge Gate if you want to. Moraine's mare moved out to where the man atop the wall had a clear view of her. Suddenly his wrinkles deepened in a gap-toothed smile, and he seemed to quiver between speaking and doing his duty. I didn't know it was you, mistress. Wait, I'll be right down. Just wait. I'm coming. I'm coming. The head dipped out of sight, but Rand could still hear muffled shouts for them to stay where they were, that he was coming. With great creaks of disuse, the right-hand gate slowly swung outward. It stopped when open, just wide enough for one horse to pass through at a time, and the gatekeeper poked his head into the gap, flashed his half-toothless smile at them again, and darted back out of the way. Moiraine followed Lan through, with Egwene right behind her. Rand trotted Cloud after Bella and found himself in a narrow street fronted by high wooden fences and warehouses, tall and windowless, broad doors closed up tight. Moiraine and Lan were already on foot, speaking to the wrinkle-faced gatekeeper, so Rand dismounted too. The little man, in a much-mended cloak and coat, held his cloth cap crumpled in one hand and ducked his head whenever he spoke. He peered at those dismounting behind Lan and Moiraine and shook his head. "Down-country folk," he grinned. "Why, Mistress Alice, you taken up collecting down-country folk with hay in their hair?" His look took in Tom Merrilin then. "You ain't a sheep farmer? I remember letting you go through some days back, I do. Didn't like your tricks down country, eh, Gleeman? I hope you remembered to forget letting us through, Master Avon," Lan said, pressing a coin into the man's free hand. "And letting us back in, too." "No need for that, Master Andra. No need for that. You give me plenty when you went out. Plenty. Just the same, Avon made the coin disappear as deftly as if he were a gleeman too. I ain't told nobody, and I won't neither. Especially not them Whitecloaks, he finished with a scowl. He pursed up his lips to spit, then glanced at Moiraine and swallowed instead. Rand blinked, but kept his mouth shut. The others did too, though it appeared to be an effort for Matt. Children of the light, Rand thought wonderingly. Stories told about the children by peddlers and merchants' guards varied from admiration to hatred, but all agreed the children hated Sedai as much as they did dark friends. He wondered if this was more trouble already. The children are in Baerlon? Land demanded. They surely are. The gatekeeper bobbed his head. Came the same day you left, as I recall. Ain't nobody here likes them at all. Most don't let on, of course. Have they said why they are here? Moiraine asked intently. Why they're here, mistress? Avon was so astonished, he forgot to duck his head. Of course they said why. Oh, I forgot. You been down country. Likely you ain't heard nothing but sheep bleating. They say they're here because of what's going on down in Geldan. The dragon, you know. Well, him as calls himself Dragon. They say the fellow's stirring up evil, which I expect he is, and they're here to stamp it out, only he's down there in Geldan, not here. Just an excuse to meddle in other people's business, is what I figure. There's already been the dragon's fang on some people's doors. This time he did spit. Have they caused much trouble then? Lan said, and Avon shook his head vigorously. Not that they don't want to, I expect, only the governor don't trust them no more than I do. He won't let but maybe 10 or so inside the walls at one time, and ain't they mad about that? The rest have a camp, a little ways north, I hear. Bet they got the farmers looking over their shoulders. The ones that do come in, they just stalk around in those white cloaks, looking down their noses at honest folk. Walk in the light, they say, and it's an order. Near come to blows more than once with the wagoners and miners and smelters and all, and even the watch. But the governor wants it all peaceful, and that's how it's been so far. If they're hunting evil, I say, why aren't they up in Saldea? There's some kind of trouble up there, I hear. Or down in Geldan. There's been a big battle down there, they say. Real big. Moiraine drew a soft breath. I'd heard that Sedai were going to Geldan. Yes, they did, mistress. Avon's head started bobbing again. They went to Geldan, all right, and that's what started this battle. Or so I hear. They say some of those Sedai are dead. Maybe all of them. I know some folks don't hold with Sedai, but I say, who else is going to stop a false dragon? Eh? And those damned fools who think they can be men, Sedai or some such. What about them? Course, some say. Not the Whitecloaks, mind, and not me, but some folks that maybe this fellow really is the dragon reborn. He can do things, I hear. Use the one power. There's thousands following him. Don't be a fool, Lan snapped, and Avon's face folded into a hurt look. I'm only saying what I heard, ain't I? Just what I heard, Master Andra. They say, some do, that he's moving his army east and south toward Tyr. His voice became heavy with meaning. They say he's named them the People of the Dragon. Names mean little, Moiraine said calmly. If anything she had heard disturbed her, she gave no outward sign of it now. You could call your mule People of the Dragon if you wanted. Not likely, mistress. Avon chuckled. Not with the Whitecloaks around, for sure. I don't expect anybody else would look kindly on a name like that, neither. I see what you mean, but, gone possible. With this wand. Gone possible. With this wand. Oh no, mistress. Not my mule. No doubt a wise decision, Moiraine said. Now we must be off. And don't you worry, mistress, Avon said with a deep bob of his head. I ain't seen nobody. He darted to the gate and began tugging it closed with quick jerks. Ain't seen nobody, and ain't seen nothing. The gate thudded shut, and he pulled down the locking bar with a rope. In fact, mistress, this gate ain't been open in days. The light illumine you, Avon, Moiraine said. She led them away from the gate then. Rand looked back once, and Avon was still standing in front of the gate. He seemed to be polishing a coin with an edge of his cloak and chuckling. The way led through dirt streets barely the width of 2 wagons, empty of people, all lined with warehouses and occasional high wooden fences. Rand walked a time beside the gleeman. Tom, what was all that about Tyr and the people of the dragon? Tyr is a city all the way down on the Sea of Storms, isn't it? The Cariathan cycle, Tom said curtly. Rand blinked. The prophecies of the dragon. Nobody tells thee. Thee tells thee, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. Those stories in the Two Rivers, not in Eamon's Field anyway. The wisdom would skin them alive if they did. I suppose she would, at that, Tom said dryly. He glanced at Moiraine up ahead with Lan, saw she could not overhear, and went on. Tyr is the greatest port on the Sea of Storms, and the Stone of Tyr is the fortress that guards it. The stone is said to be the first fortress built after the breaking of the world, and in all this time it has never fallen, though more than one army has tried. One of the prophecies says that the Stone of Tyr will never fall until the people of the dragon come to the stone. Another says the stone will never fall till the sword that cannot be touched is wielded by the dragon's hand. Tom grimaced. The fall of the stone will be one of the major proofs that the dragon has been reborn. May the stone stand till I am dust. The sword that cannot be touched. That's what it says. I don't know whether it is a sword. Whatever it is, it lies in the heart of the stone, the central citadel of the fortress. None but the High Lords of Tyr can enter there, and they never speak of what lies inside. Certainly not to Gleeman, anyway. Rand frowned. The stone cannot fall until the dragon wields the sword, but how can he, unless the stone has already fallen? Is the dragon supposed to be a High Lord of Tyr? Not much chance of that, the Gleeman said dryly. Tyr hates anything to do with the power even more than Amador, and Amador is the stronghold of the Children of the Light. Then how can the prophecy be fulfilled? Rand asked. I'd like it well enough if the dragon was never reborn, but a prophecy that cannot be fulfilled doesn't make much sense. It sounds like a story meant to make people think the dragon never will be reborn. Is that it? You ask an awful lot of questions, boy, Tom said. A prophecy that was easily fulfilled would not be worth much now, would it? Suddenly his voice brightened. Well, we're here, wherever here is. Lan had stopped by a section of head-high wooden fence that looked no different from any other they had passed. He was working the blade of his dagger between two of the boards. Abruptly he gave a grunt of satisfaction, pulled, and a length of the fence swung out like a gate. In fact, it was a gate, Rand saw, though one meant to be opened only from the other side. The metal latch that Lan had lifted with his dagger showed that. Moiraine went through immediately, drawing Aldi behind her. Lan motioned the others to follow and brought up the rear, closing the gate behind him. On the other side of the fence, Rand found himself in the stable yard of an inn. A loud bustle and clatter came from the building's kitchen, but what struck him was its size. It covered more than twice as much ground as the Winespring Inn, and was 4 stories high besides. Well over half the windows were aglow in the deepening twilight. He wondered at this city that could have so many strangers in it. No sooner had they come well into the stable yard than 3 men in dirty canvas aprons appeared at the huge stable's broad, arched doors. One, a wiry fellow and the only one without a manure fork in his hands, came forward waving his arms. Here, you can't come in that way. You'll have to go round the front. Lan's hand went to his purse again, but even as it did, another man, as big around as Master Olvert, came hurrying out of the inn. Puffs of hair stuck out above his ears, and his sparkling white apron was as good as a sign proclaiming him the innkeeper. It's all right, Much, the newcomer said. It's all right. These folk are expected guests. Take care of their horses now. Good care. Much sullenly knuckled his forehead, then motioned his 2 companions to come help. Rand and the others hurriedly got their saddlebags and blanket trolls down, while the innkeeper turned to Moiraine. He gave her a deep bow and spoke with a genuine smile. Welcome, Mistress Alice. Welcome. It's good to be seeing you and Master Undra, both. Very good. Your fine conversation has been missed. Yes, it has. I must say I worried, you going down country and all. Well, I mean, at a time like this, with the weather all crazy and wolves howling right up to the walls in the night. Abruptly, he slapped both hands against his round belly and shook his head. Here I go on like this, chattering away, instead of taking you inside. Qualm, hot meals and warm beds, that's what you'll be wanting. And the best in Baerlon are right here, the very best. And hot baths too, I trust, Master Fitch, Moiraine said, and Egwene echoed her fervently. Oh yes, baths, the innkeeper said. Why, just the best and the hottest in Baerlon. Welcome to the Stag and Lion. Welcome to Baerlon. Inside, the inn was every bit as busy as the sounds coming from it had indicated, and more. The party from Eamon's Field followed Master Fitch through the back door, soon weaving around and between a constant stream of men and women in long aprons, platters of food and trays of drink held high. The bearers murmured quick apologies when they got in anyone's way, but they never slowed by a step. One of the men took hurried orders from Master Fitch and disappeared at a run. "The inn is near full, I'm afraid," the innkeeper told Moiraine, "almost to the rafters. Every inn in the town is the same. With the winter we just had, gone possible. With this wand, gone possible. With this wand. Well, as soon as it cleared enough for them to get down out of the mountains, we were inundated. Yes, that's the word, inundated by men from the mines and smelters, all telling the most horrible tales. Wolves. And worse. The kind of tales men tell when they've been cooped up all winter. I can't think there's anyone left up there at all. We have that many here. But never fear. Things may be a little crowded, but I'll do my best by you and Master Andra. And your friends, too, of course." He glanced curiously once or twice at Rand and the others. Except for Tom, their clothes named them country folk, and Tom's gleeman's cloak made him a strange travelling companion as well for Mistress Alice and Master Andra. "I will do my best, you may rest assured." Rand stared at the bustle around them and tried to avoid being stepped on, though none of the help really seemed to be in any danger of that. He kept thinking of how Master Olvere and his wife tended the Wine Spring Inn, with sometimes a little assistance from their daughters. Mat and Perrin craned their necks in interest toward the common room, from which rode a wave of laughter and singing and jovial shouting whenever the wide door at the end of the hall swung open. Muttering about finding out the news, the warder grimly disappeared through that swinging door, swallowed by a wave of merriment. Rand wanted to follow him, but he wanted a bath even more. He could have done with people and laughing right then, but the common room would appreciate his presence more when he was clean. Mat and Perrin apparently felt the same. Mat was scratching surreptitiously. "Master Fitch," Moiraine said, "I understand there are children of the light in Baerlon. Is there likely to be trouble?" "Oh, never you worry about them, Mistress Alice. They're up to their usual tricks. Claim there's an Aes Sedai in the town." Moiraine lifted an eyebrow, and the innkeeper spread his plump hands. "Don't you worry. They've tried it before. There's no Aes Sedai in Baerlon, and the governor knows it. The Whitecloaks think if they show an Aes Sedai, some woman they claim is an Aes Sedai, people will let all of them inside the walls. Well, I suppose some would. Some would. But most people know what the Whitecloaks are up to, and they support the governor. No one wants to see some harmless old woman hurt, just so the children can have an excuse for whipping up a frenzy." "I'm glad to hear it," Moiraine said dryly. She put a hand on the innkeeper's arm. "Is Min still here? I wish to talk with her, if she is." Master Fitch's answer was lost to Rand in the arrival of attendants to lead them to the baths. Moiraine and Egwene vanished behind a plump woman with a ready smile and an armload of towels. The gleeman and Rand and his friends found themselves following a slight, dark-haired fellow, Ara by name. Rand tried asking Ara about Baerlon, but the man barely said 2 words together except to say Rand had a funny accent, and then the first sight of the bath chamber drove all thoughts of talk right out of Rand's head. A dozen tall copper bathtubs sat in a circle on the tiled floor, which sloped down slightly to a drain in the center of the big stone-walled room. A thick towel, neatly folded, and a large cake of yellow soap sat on a stool behind each tub, and big black iron cauldrons of water stood heating over fires along one wall. On the opposite wall, logs blazing in a deep fireplace added to the general warmth. "Almost as good as the Wine Spring Inn back home," Perrin said loyally, if not exactly with a great attention to truth. Tom barked a laugh, and Mat sniggered. "Sounds like we brought a coplin with us and didn't know it." Rand shrugged out of his cloak and stripped off his clothes while Ara filled 4 of the copper tubs. None of the others was far behind Rand in choosing a bathtub. Once their clothes were all in piles on the stools, Ara brought them each a large bucket of hot water and a dipper. That done, he sat on a stool by the door, leaning back against the wall with his arms crossed, apparently lost in his own thoughts. There was little in the way of conversation while they lathered and sluiced away a week of grime with dippers of steaming water. Then it was into the tubs for a long soak. Ara had made the water hot enough that settling in was a slow process of luxuriant sighs. The air in the room went from warm to misty and hot. For a long time there was no sound except the occasional long, relaxing exhalation as tight muscles loosened and a chill that they had come to think permanent was drawn out of their bones. "Need anything else?" Ara asked suddenly. He did not have much room to talk about people's accents. He and Master Fitch both sounded as if they had a mouthful of mush. "More towels? More hot water?" "Nothing," Tom said in his reverberant voice. Eyes closed, he gave an indolent wave of his hand. "Go and enjoy the evening. At a later time I will see that you receive more than adequate recompense for your services." He settled lower in the tub until the water covered everything but his eyes and nose. Ara's eyes went to the stools behind the tubs where their clothes and belongings were stacked. He glanced at the bow, but lingered longest over Rand's sword and Perrin's axe. "Is there trouble down country too?" he said abruptly. "In the rivers, or whatever you call it." "The two rivers," Matt said, pronouncing each separate word distinctly. "It's the two rivers. As for trouble, why, what do you mean two?" Rand asked. "Is there some kind of trouble here?" Perrin, enjoying his soak, murmured, "Good, good." Tom raised himself back up a little and opened his eyes. "Here," Era snorted. "Trouble? Miners having fistfights in the streets in the dark of the morning aren't trouble, or gone possible with this wand, gone possible with this wand." He stopped and eyed them a moment. "I meant the Gelden kind of trouble," he said finally. "No, I suppose not. Nothing but sheep down country, is there? No offense. I just meant it's quiet down there. Still, it's been a strange winter. Strange things in the mountains. I heard the other day there were Trollocs up in Saldea. But that's the borderlands then, isn't it?" He finished with his mouth still open, then snapped it shut, appearing surprised that he had said so much. Rand had tensed at the word Trollocs and tried to hide it by wringing his washcloth out over his head. As the fellow went on, he relaxed, but not everyone kept his mouth shut. "Trollocs?" Matt chortled. Rand splashed water at him, but Matt just wiped it off of his face with a grin. "You just let me tell you about Trollocs." For the first time since climbing into his tub, Tom spoke. "Why don't you not?" "I am a little tired of hearing my own stories back from you." "He's a gleeman," Perrin said, and Ara gave him a scornful look. "I saw the cloak. You going to perform?" "Just a minute," Matt protested. "What's this about me telling Tom stories?" "Are you all? You just don't tell them as well as Tom." Rand cut him off hastily, and Perrin hopped in. "You keep adding in things, trying to make it better, and they never do." "And you get it all mixed up too," Rand added. "Best leave it to Tom." They were all talking so fast that Ara stared at them with his mouth hanging open. Matt stared too, as if everyone else had suddenly gone crazy. Rand wondered how to shut him up short of jumping on him. The door banged open to admit Lan, brown cloak slung over one shoulder, along with a gust of cooler air that momentarily thinned the mist. "Well," the warder said, rubbing his hands, "this is what I have been waiting for." Ara picked up a bucket, but Lan waved it away. "No, I will see to myself." Dropping his cloak on one of the stools, he bundled the bath attendant out of the room, despite the fellow's protests, and shut the door firmly after him. He waited there a moment, his head cocked to listen, and when he turned back to the rest of them, his voice was stony and his eyes stabbed at Matt. "It's a good thing I got back when I did, farm boy. Don't you listen to what you are told." "I didn't do anything," Matt protested. "I was just going to tell him about the Trollocs, not about gone possible with this wand, gone possible with this wand." He stopped and leaned back from the warder's eyes, flat against the back of the tub. "Don't talk about Trollocs," Lan said grimly. "Don't even think about Trollocs." With an angry snort, he began filling himself a bathtub. "Blood and ashes, you had better remember. The Dark One has eyes and ears where you least expect. And if the Children of the Light heard Trollocs were after you, they'd be burning to get their hands on you. To them, it will be as much as naming you Dark Friend. It may not be what you're used to, but until we get where we are going, keep your trust small, unless Mistress Alice or I tell you differently." At his emphasis on the name Moiraine was using, Matt flinched. "There was something that fellow wouldn't tell us," Rand said. "Something he thought was trouble, but he wouldn't say what it was." "Probably the children," Lan said, pouring more hot water into his tub. Most people consider them trouble. Some don't, though, and he did not know you well enough to risk it. You might have gone running to the Whitecloaks for all he knew." Rand shook his head. This place already sounded worse than Taren Ferry could possibly be. He said there were Trollocs in, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. "In Saldea, wasn't it?" Perrin said. Lamb hurled his empty bucket to the floor with a crash. "You will talk about it, won't you? There are always Trollocs in the Borderlands, blacksmith. Just you put it in the front of your mind that we want no more attention than mice in a field. Concentrate on that. Moiraine wants to get you all to Tar Valon alive, and I will do it if it can be done, but if you bring any harm to her, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand." The rest of their bathing was done in silence, and dressing afterwards too. When they left the bath chamber, Moiraine was standing at the end of the hall with a slender girl not much taller than herself. At least, Rand thought it was a girl, though her dark hair was cut short and she wore a man's shirt and trousers. Moiraine said something, and the girl looked at the men sharply, then nodded to Moiraine and hurried away. "Well now," Moiraine said as they drew closer, "I am sure a bath has given you all an appetite. Master Fitch has given us a private dining room." She talked on inconsequentially as she turned to lead the way, about their rooms and the crowding in the town, and how the innkeeper hoped Tom would favour the common room with some music and a story or two. She never mentioned the girl, if girl it had been. The private dining room had a polished oak table with a dozen chairs around it, and a thick rug on the floor. As they entered, Egwene, freshly gleaming hair combed out around her shoulders, turned from warming her hands at the fire crackling on the hearth. Rand had had plenty of time for thought during the long silence in the bath chamber. Lan's constant admonitions not to trust anyone, and especially Ara being afraid to trust them, had made him think of just how alone they really were. It seemed they could not trust anyone but themselves, and he was still not too sure how far they could trust Moiraine or Lan. Just themselves. And Egwene was still Egwene. Moiraine said it would have happened to her anyway, this touching the true source. She had no control over it, and that meant it was not her fault, and she was still Egwene. He opened his mouth to apologize, but Egwene stiffened and turned her back before he could get a word out. Staring sullenly at her back, he swallowed what he had been going to say. "All right then. If she wants to be like that, there's nothing I can do." Master Fitch bustled in then, followed by 4 women in white aprons as long as his, with a platter holding 3 roast chickens and others bearing silver and pottery dishes and covered bowls. The women began setting the table immediately, while the innkeeper bowed to Moiraine. "My apologies, Mistress Alice, for making you wait like this, but with so many people in the inn, it's a wonder anybody gets served at all. I'm afraid the food isn't what it should be either. Just the chickens and some turnips and hen peas with a little cheese for after. No, it just isn't what it should be. I truly do apologize. A feast." Moiraine smiled. "For these troubled times, a feast indeed, Master Fitch." The innkeeper bowed again, his wispy hair sticking out in all directions as if he constantly ran his hands through it, made the bow comical, but his grin was so pleasant that anyone who laughed would be laughing with him, not at him. "My thanks, Mistress Alice, my thanks." As he straightened, he frowned and wiped an imagined bit of dust from the table with the corner of his apron. "It isn't what I would have laid before you a year ago, of course. Not nearly. The winter? Yes, the winter. My cellars are emptying out, and the market is all but bare. And who can blame the farm folk? Who? There's certainly no telling when they'll harvest another crop. No telling at all. It's the wolves get the mutton and beef that should go on people's tables, and gone possible with this wand, gone possible with this wand." Abruptly, he seemed to realize that this was hardly the conversation to settle his guests to a comfortable meal. "How I do run on. Full of old wind. That's me, old wind. Mari, Cinder, let these good people eat in peace." He made shooing gestures at the women, and, as they scurried from the room, swung back to bow to Moiraine yet again. "I hope you enjoy your meal, Mistress Alice. If there's anything else you need, just speak it, and I will fetch it. Just you speak it. It is a pleasure serving you and Master Andra. A pleasure." He gave one more deep bow and was gone, closing the door softly behind him. Lan had slouched against the wall through all of this as if half asleep. Now he leaped up and was at the door in 2 long strides. Pressing an ear to a door panel, he listened intently for a slow count of 30, then snatched open the door and stuck his head into the hall. "Begone," he said at last, closing the door. "We can talk safely." "I know you say not to trust anyone," Egwene said, "but if you suspect the innkeeper, why stay here?" "I suspect him no more than anyone else," Lan replied. "But then, until we reach Tar Valon, I suspect everyone. There, I'll suspect only half." Rand started to smile, thinking the warder was making a joke. Then he realized there was not a trace of humor on Lan's face. He really would suspect people in Tar Valon. Was anywhere safe? "He exaggerates," Moiraine told them soothingly. "Master Fitch is a good man, honest and trustworthy. But he does like to talk, and with the best will in the world he might let something slip to the wrong ear. And I have never yet stopped at an inn where half the maids did not listen at doors and spend more time gossiping than making beds. Come, let us be seated before our meal gets cold." They took places around the table, with Moiraine at the head and Lan at the foot, and for a while everyone was too busy filling their plates for talk. It might not have been a feast, but after close to a week of flat bread and dried meat, it tasted like one. After a time, Moiraine asked, "What did you learn in the common room?" Knives and forks stilled, suspended in mid-air, and all eyes turned to the warder. "Little that's good," Lan replied. "Avin was right, at least as far as talk has it. There was a battle in Gaeldan, and Loghain was the victor. A dozen different stories are floating about, but they all agree on that. Loghain? That must be the false dragon." It was the first time Rand had heard a name put to the man. Lan sounded almost as if he knew him. "The Aes Sedai?" Moiraine asked quietly, and Lan shook his head. "I don't know. Some say they were all killed, some say none." He snorted. "Some even say they went over to Loghain. There's nothing reliable, and I did not care to show too much interest." "Yes," Moiraine said. "Little that is good." With a deep breath, she brought her attention back to the table. "And what of our own circumstances?" "There, the news is better. No odd happenings, no strangers around who might be mid-drawl, certainly no Trollocs. And the Whitecloaks are busy trying to make trouble for Governor Aidan because he won't cooperate with them. They will not even notice us unless we advertise ourselves." "Good," Moiraine said. "That agrees with what the bathmaid said. Gossip does have its points. Now," she addressed the entire company, "we have a long journey still ahead of us, but the last week has not been easy either, so I propose to remain here tonight and tomorrow night, and leave early the following morning." All the younger folk grinned, a city for the first time. Moiraine smiled, but she still said, "What does Master Andra say to that?" Lan eyed the grinning faces flatly. "Well enough, if they remember what I've told them for a change." Tom snorted through his moustaches. "These country folk loose in a IA, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, a city." He snorted again and shook his head. With the crowding at the inn, there were only 3 rooms to be had, 1 for Moiraine and Egwene, and 2 to take the men. Rand found himself sharing with Lan and Tom on the 4th floor at the back, close up under the overhanging eaves, with a single small window that overlooked the stable-yard. Full night had fallen, and light from the inn made a pool outside. It was a small room to begin, and an extra bed set up for Tom made it smaller, though all 3 were narrow. And hard, Rand found when he threw himself down on his. Definitely not the best room. Tom stayed only long enough to uncase his flute and harp, then left already practicing grand poses. Lan went with him. It was strange, Rand thought as he shifted uncomfortably on the bed. A week ago he would have been downstairs like a falling rock, for just the chance he might see a gleeman perform, for just the rumor of it. But he had heard Tom tell his stories every night for a week, and Tom would be there tomorrow night, and the next, and the hot bath had loosened kinks in muscles that he had thought would be there forever, and his first hot meal in a week oozed lethargy into him. Sleepily he wondered if Lan really did know the false dragon, Loghain. A muffled shout came from below stairs, the common room greeting Tom's arrival, but Rand was already asleep. The stone hallway was dim and shadowy and empty except for Rand. He could not tell where the light came from, what little there was of it. The grey walls were bare of candles or lamps, nothing at all to account for the faint glow that seemed to just be there. The air was still and dank, and somewhere in the distance water dripped with a steady, hollow plonk. Wherever this was, it was not the inn. Frowning, he rubbed at his forehead. His head hurt, and thoughts were hard to hold on to. There had been something about, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. An inn? It was gone, whatever it was. He licked his lips and wished he had something to drink. He was awfully thirsty, dry as dust thirsty. It was the dripping sound that decided him. With nothing to choose by except his thirst, he started toward that steady gronk, gronk, gronk. The hallway stretched on, without any crossing corridor and without the slightest change in appearance. The only features at all were the rough doors set at regular intervals in pairs, one on either side of the hall, the wood splintered and dry, despite the damp in the air. The shadows receded ahead of him, staying the same, and the dripping never came any closer. After a long time, he decided to try one of those doors. It opened easily, and he stepped through into a grim, stone-walled chamber. One wall opened in a series of arches onto a grey stone balcony, and beyond that was a sky such as he had never seen. Striated clouds in blacks and greys, reds and oranges streamed by as if storm winds drove them, weaving and interweaving endlessly. No one could ever have seen a sky like that. It could not exist. He pulled his eyes away from the balcony, but the rest of the room was no better. Odd curves and peculiar angles, as if the chamber had been melted almost haphazardly out of the stone, and columns that seemed to grow out of the grey floor. Flames roared on the hearth like a forge fire, with the bellows pumping, but gave no heat. Strange oval stones made the fireplace. They just looked like stones, wet slick despite the fire, when he looked straight at them. But when he glimpsed them from the corner of his eye, they seemed to be faces instead, the faces of men and women writhing in anguish, screaming silently. The high-backed chairs and the polished table in the middle of the room were perfectly ordinary, but that in itself emphasized the rest. A single mirror hung on the wall, but that was not ordinary at all. When he looked at it, he saw only a blur where his reflection should have been. Everything else in the room was shown true, but not him. A man stood in front of the fireplace. He had not noticed the man when he first came in. If he had not known it was impossible, he would have said no one had been there until he actually looked at the man. Dressed in dark clothes of a fine cut, he seemed in the prime of his maturity, and Rand supposed women would have found him good-looking. "Once more we meet face to face," the man said, and, just for an instant, his mouth and eyes became openings into endless caverns of flame. With a yell, Rand hurled himself backwards out of the room, so hard that he stumbled across the hall and banged into the door there, knocking it open. He twisted and grabbed at the door handle to keep from falling to the floor, and found himself staring wide-eyed into a stone room with an impossible sky through the arches leading to a balcony and a fireplace. Gone possible with this wand, gone possible with this wand, gone possible with this wand. "You cannot get away from me that easily," the man said. Rand twisted, scrambling back out of the room, trying to regain his feet without slowing down. This time there was no corridor. He froze, half crouched not far from the polished table, and looked at the man by the fireplace. It was better than looking at the fireplace stones or at the sky. "This is a dream," he said as he straightened. Behind him he heard the click of the door closing. "It's some kind of nightmare." He shut his eyes, thinking about waking up. When he was a child, the wisdom had said if you could do that in a nightmare, it would go away. Gone possible with this wand, gone possible with this wand. Wisdom? What? If only his thoughts would stop sliding away. If only his head would stop hurting, then he could think straight. He opened his eyes again. The room was still as it had been, the balcony, the sky, the man by the fireplace. "Is it a dream?" the man said. "Does it matter?" Once again, for a moment, his mouth and eyes became peepholes into a furnace that seemed to stretch forever. His voice did not change. He did not seem to notice it happening at all. Rand jumped a little this time, but he managed to keep from yelling. "This is a dream. It has to be." All the same, he stepped backwards all the way to the door, never taking his eyes off the fellow by the fire, and tried the handle. It did not move. The door was locked. "You seem thirsty," the man by the fire said. "Drink." On the table was a goblet, shining gold and ornamented with rubies and amethysts. It had not been there before. He wished he could stop jumping. It was only a dream. His mouth felt like dust. "I am a little," he said, picking up the goblet. The man leaned forward intently, one hand on the back of a chair, watching him. The smell of spiced wine drove home to Rand just how thirsty he was, as if he had had nothing to drink in days. "Have I?" With the wine halfway to his mouth, he stopped. Whispers of smoke were rising from the chair back between the man's fingers, and those eyes watched him so sharply, flickering rapidly in and out of flames. Rand licked his lips and put the wine back on the table, untasted. "I'm not as thirsty as I thought." The man straightened abruptly, his face without expression. His disappointment could not have been more plain if he had cursed. Rand wondered what was in the wine. But that was a stupid question, of course. This was all a dream. Then why won't it stop? "What do you want?" he demanded. "Who are you?" Flames rose in the man's eyes and mouth. Rand thought he could hear them roar. "Some call me Ba'alzamon." Rand found himself facing the door, jerking frantically at the handle. All thought of dreams had vanished. The Dark One. The door handle would not budge, but he kept twisting. "Are you the one?" Ba'alzamon said suddenly. "You cannot hide it from me forever. You cannot even hide yourself from me, not on the highest mountain or in the deepest cave. I know you down to the smallest hair." Rand turned to face the man, to face Ba'alzamon. He swallowed hard. A nightmare. He reached back to give the door handle one last pull, then stood up straighter. "Are you expecting glory?" Ba'alzamon said. "Power? Did they tell you the eye of the world would serve you? What glory or power is there for a puppet? The strings that move you have been centuries weaving. Your father was chosen by the White Tower, like a stallion roped and led to his business. Your mother was no more than a broodmare to their plans, and those plans lead to your death." Rand's hands knotted in fists. "My father is a good man, and my mother was a good woman. Don't you talk about them." The flames laughed. "So there is some spirit in you after all. Perhaps you are the one. Little good it will do you. The Amelin seat will use you until you are consumed, just as Davian was used, and Urien Stonebow, and Gwaia Amalasan, and Rowlin Darkspane. Just as Loghain is being used. Used until there is nothing left of you. I don't know. Gone possible with this wand. Gone possible with this wand." Rand swung his head from side to side. That one moment of clear thinking, born in anger, was gone. Even as he groped for it again, he could not remember how he had reached it the first time. His thoughts spun around and around. He seized one like a raft in the whirlpool. He forced the words out, his voice strengthening the further he went. You, gone possible with this wand. Gone possible with this wand. Abound. Gone possible with this wand. Gone possible with this wand. In Sheol Gul, you and all the Forsaken. Gone possible with this wand. Gone possible with this wand. Bound by the Creator until the end of time. "The end of time?" Ba'alzamon mocked. "You live like a beetle under a rock, and you think your slime is the universe. The death of time will bring me power such as you could not dream of, worm. You are bound. Fool, I have never been bound." The fires of his face roared so hot that Rand stepped back, sheltering behind his hands. The sweat on his palms dried from the heat. "I stood at Luz Theron Kinslayer's shoulder when he did the deed that named him. It was I who told him to kill his wife, and his children, and all his blood, and every living person who loved him or whom he loved. It was I who gave him the moment of sanity to know what he had done. Have you ever heard a man scream his soul away, worm? He could have struck at me then. He could not have won, but he could have tried. Instead, he called down his precious one power upon himself, so much that the earth split open and reared up Dragon Mount to mark his tomb. 1,000 years later, I sent the Trollocs ravening south, and for 3 centuries they savaged the world. Those blind fools in Tar Valon said I was beaten in the end, but the Second Covenant, the Covenant of the 10 Nations, was shattered beyond remaking, and who was left to oppose me then? I whispered in Artur Hawkwing's ear, and the length and breadth of the land Aes Sedai died. I whispered again, and the High King sent his armies across the Arith Ocean, across the World Sea, and sealed 2 dooms. The doom of his dream of one land and one people, and a doom yet to come. At his deathbed, I was there when his counselors told him only a Sedai could save his life. I spoke, and he ordered his counselors to the stake. I spoke, and the High King's last words were to cry that Tar Valon must be destroyed. When men such as these could not stand against me, what chance do you have? A toad crouching beside a forest puddle. You will serve me, or you will dance on Aes Sedai's strings until you die. And then you will be mine. The dead belong to me. No, Rand muttered. This is a dream. It is a dream. Do you think you are safe from me in your dreams? Look! Ba'alzamon pointed commandingly, and Rand's head turned to follow. Although he did not turn it, he did not want to turn. The goblet was gone from the table. Where it had been, crouched a large rat, blinking at the light, sniffing the air warily. Ba'alzamon crooked his finger, and with a squeak the rat arched its back, forepaws lifting into the air while it balanced awkwardly on its hind feet. The finger curved more, and the rat toppled over, scrabbling frantically, pawing at nothing, squealing shrilly, its back bending. With a sharp snap like the breaking of a twig, the rat trembled violently and was still, lying bent almost double. Rand swallowed. Anything can happen in a dream, he mumbled. Without looking, he swung his fist back against the door again. His hand hurt, but he still did not wake up. Then go to the Aes Sedai. Go to the White Tower and tell them. Tell the Amelin seat of this. Gone possible with this wand. Gone possible with this wand. Dream. The man laughed. Rand felt the heat of the flames on his face. That is one way to escape them. They will not use you then. No, not when they know that I know. But will they let you live, to spread the tale of what they do? Are you a big enough fool to believe they will? The ashes of many like you are scattered on the slopes of Dragonmount. This is a dream, Rand said, panting. It's a dream, and I'm going to wake up. Will you? Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the man's finger move to point at him. Will you indeed? The finger crooked, and Rand screamed as he arched backwards, every muscle in his body forcing him further. Will you ever wake again? Convulsively, Rand jerked up in the darkness, his hands tightening on cloth. A blanket. Pale moonlight shone through the single window. The shadowed shapes of the other two beds. A snore from one of them like canvas ripping, Tom Merrilin. A few coals gleamed among the ashes on the hearth. It had been a dream then, like that nightmare in the Winespring Inn the day of Beltane. Everything that he had heard and done, all jumbled in together with old tales and nonsense from nowhere. He pulled the blanket up around his shoulders, but it was not cold that made him shake. His head hurt too. Perhaps Moiraine could do something to stop these dreams. She said she could help with nightmares. With a snort, he lay back. Were the dreams really bad enough for him to ask the help of an AI Sedai? On the other hand, could anything he did now get him in any deeper? He had left the two rivers, come away with an Aes Sedai, but there had not been any choice, of course. So did he have any choice but to trust her? An Aes Sedai? It was as bad as the dreams, thinking about it. He huddled under his blanket, trying to find the calmness of the void, the way Tam had taught him, but sleep was a long time returning. Sunlight streaming across his narrow bed finally woke Rand out of a deep but restless sleep. He pulled a pillow over his head, but it did not really shut out the light, and he did not really want to go back to sleep. There had been more dreams after the first. He could not remember any but the first, but he knew he wanted no more. With a sigh, he tossed the pillow aside and sat up, wincing as he stretched. All the aches he thought had soaked out in the bath were back, and his head still hurt too. It did not surprise him. A dream like that was enough to give anybody a headache. The others had already faded, but not that one. The other beds were empty. Light poured in through the window at a steep angle. The sun stood well above the horizon. By this hour, back on the farm, he would have already fixed something to eat and been well into his chores. He scrambled out of bed, muttering angrily to himself. A city to see, and they did not even wake him. At least someone had seen that there was water in the pitcher, and still warm too. He washed and dressed quickly, hesitating a moment over Tam's sword. Lan and Tom had left their saddlebags and blanket rolls behind in the room, of course, but the warder's sword was nowhere to be seen. Lan had worn his sword in Emond's Field even before there was any hint of trouble. He thought he would take the older man's lead. Telling himself it was not because he had often daydreamed about walking the streets of a real city wearing a sword, he belted it on and tossed his cloak over his shoulder like a sack. Taking the stairs 2 at a time, he hurried down to the kitchen. That was surely the quickest place to get a bite, and on his only day in Baerlon, he did not want to waste any more time than he already had. Blood and ashes, but they could have waked me. Master Fitch was in the kitchen, confronting a plump woman whose arms were covered in flour to her elbows, obviously the cook. Rather, she was confronting him, shaking her finger under his nose. Serving maids and scullions, potboys and spitboys hurried about their tasks, elaborately ignoring what was going on in front of them. Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. My Ciri is a good cat, the cook was saying sharply, and I won't hear a word otherwise, do you hear? Complaining about him doing his job too well, that's what you're doing, if you ask me. I have had complaints, Master Fitch managed to get in. Complaints, mistress, half the guests. I won't hear of it. I just won't hear of it. If they want to complain about my cat, let them do the cooking. My poor old cat who's just doing his job, and me, we'll go somewhere where we're appreciated, see if we don't. She untied her apron and started to lift it over her head. No, Master Fitch yelped and leaped to stop her. They danced in a circle with the cook, trying to take her apron off, and the innkeeper trying to put it back on her. No, Sarah, he panted. There's no need for this. No need, I say. What would I do without you? Ciri's a fine cat. An excellent cat. He's the best cat in Baerlon. If anyone else complains, I'll tell them to be thankful the cat is doing his job. Yes, thankful. You mustn't go. Sarah? Sarah. The cook stopped their circling and managed to snatch her apron free of him. All right then. All right. Clutching the apron in both hands, she still did not retie it. But if you expect me to have anything ready for midday, you'd best get out of here and let me get to it. This may be your inn, but it's my kitchen. Unless you want to do the cooking. She made as if to hand the apron to him. Master Fitch stepped back with his hands spread wide. He opened his mouth, then stopped, looking around for the first time. The kitchen help still studiously ignored the cook and the innkeeper, and Rand began an intensive search of his coat pockets, though except for the coin Moiraine had given him, there was nothing in them but a few coppers and a handful of odds and ends. His pocket knife and sharpening stone, 2 spare bowstrings, and a piece of string he had thought might be useful. I am sure, Sarah, Master Fitch said carefully, that everything will be up to your usual excellence. With that, he took one last suspicious look at the kitchen help, then left with as much dignity as he could manage. Sarah waited until he was gone before briskly tying her apron strings again, then fastened her eye on Rand. I suppose you want something to eat, eh? Well, come on in. She gave him a quick grin. I don't bite. I don't, no matter what you may have seen, as you shouldn't. She'll get the lad some bread and cheese and milk. That's all there is right now. Sit yourself, lad. Your friends have all gone out, except one lad I understand wasn't feeling well, and I expect you'll be wanting to do the same. One of the serving maids brought a tray while Rand took a stool at the table. He began eating as the cook went back to kneading her bread dough, but she was not finished talking. You mustn't take any mind of what you saw, now. Master Fitch is a good enough man, though the best of you aren't any bargains. It's the folk complaining, as has him on edge. And what do they have to complain about? Would they rather find live rats than dead ones? Though it isn't like Ciri to leave his handiwork behind. And over a dozen? Ciri wouldn't let so many get into the inn, he wouldn't. It's a clean place too, and not one to be so troubled. And all with backs broken. She shook her head at the strangeness of it all. The bread and cheese turned to ashes in Rand's mouth. Their backs were broken. The cook waved a floury hand. Think on happier things, that's my way of looking. There's a gleeman, you know, in the common room right this minute. But then you came with him, didn't you? You are one of those as came with Mistress Alis last evening, aren't you? I thought you were. I won't get much chance to see this gleeman myself, I'm thinking, not with the inn as full as it is, and most of them riff-raff down from the mines. She gave the dough an especially heavy thump. Not the sort we'd let in most times, only the whole town is filled up with them. Better than some they could be, though, I suppose. Why, I haven't seen a gleeman since before the winter, and gone possible with this wand, gone possible with this wand. Rand ate mechanically, not tasting anything, not listening to what the cook said. Dead rats with their backs broken. He finished his breakfast hastily, stammered his thanks, and hurried out. He had to talk to someone. The common room of the Stag and Lion shared little except its purpose with the same room at the Wine Spring Inn. It was twice as wide and 3 times as long, and colourful pictures of ornate buildings with gardens of tall trees and bright flowers were painted high on the walls. Instead of one huge fireplace, a hearth blazed on each wall, and scores of tables filled the floor, with almost every chair, bench or stool taken. Every man among the crowd of patrons, with pipes in their teeth and mugs in their fists, leaned forward with his attention on one thing: Tom, standing atop a table in the middle of the room, his many-coloured cloak tossed over a nearby chair. Even Master Fitch held a silver tankard and a polishing cloth in motionless hands. Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. Prancing, silver hooves and proud arched necks, Tom proclaimed, while somehow seeming not only to be riding a horse, but to be one of a long procession of riders. Silken manes flutter with tossed heads. 1,000 streaming banners whip rainbows against an endless sky. 100 brazen-throated trumpets shiver the air, and drums rattle like thunder. Wave on wave, cheers roll from watchers in their thousands, roll across the rooftops and towers of Ilian, crash and break unheard around the 1,000 ears of riders whose eyes and hearts shine with their sacred quest. The great hunt of the Horn rides forth, rides to seek the Horn of Valere that will summon the heroes of the ages back from the grave to battle for the light. Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. It was what the Gleeman had called plain chant, those nights beside the fire on the ride north. Stories, he said, were told in 3 voices: high chant, plain chant, and common, which meant simply telling it the way you might tell your neighbour about your crop. Tom told stories in common, but he did not bother to hide his contempt for the voice. Rand closed the door without going in and slumped against the wall. He would get no advice from Tom. Moiraine, what would she do as she knew? He became aware of people staring at him as they passed, and realized he was muttering under his breath. Smoothing his coat, he straightened. He had to talk to somebody. The cook had said one of the others had not gone out. It was an effort not to run. When he rapped on the door of the room where the other boys had slept and poked his head in, only Perrin was there, lying on his bed and still not dressed. He twisted his head on the pillow to look at Rand, then closed his eyes again. Mat's bow and quiver were propped in the corner. "I heard you weren't feeling well," Rand said. He came in and sat on the next bed. "I just wanted to talk." Gone possible, with this wand. That he did not know how to bring it up, he realized. "If you're sick," he said, half standing, "maybe you ought to sleep. I can go. I don't know if I'll ever sleep again." Perrin sighed. "I had a bad dream, if you must know, and couldn't get back to sleep. Mat will be quick enough to tell you. He laughed this morning when I told them why I was too tired to go out with him, but he dreamed too. I listened to him for most of the night, tossing and muttering, and you can't tell me he got a good night's sleep." He threw a thick arm across his eyes. "Light, but I'm tired. Maybe if I just stay here for an hour or 2, I'll feel like getting up. Mat will never let me hear the end of it if I miss seeing Baerlon because of a dream." Rand slowly lowered himself to the bed again. He licked his lips, then said quickly, "Did he kill a rat?" Perrin lowered his arm and stared at him. "You too," he said finally. When Rand nodded, he said, "I wish I was back home. He told me, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand," he said. "Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. What are we going to do? Have you told Moiraine?" "No, not yet. Maybe I won't. I don't know. What about you?" he said. "Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand." "Blood and ashes, Rand, I don't know." Perrin raised up on his elbow abruptly. "Do you think Mat had the same dream?" He laughed, but it sounded forced, and he looked funny when I said I couldn't sleep because of a dream. "Maybe he did," Rand said. Guiltily, he felt relieved. He was not the only one. I was going to ask Tom for advice. He's seen a lot of the world. "You. Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. You don't think we should tell Moiraine, do you?" Perrin fell back on his pillow. You've heard the stories about A.S. Sedai. Do you think we can trust Tom? If we can trust anybody? Rand, if we get out of this alive, if we ever get back home, and you hear me say anything about leaving Emmons Field, even to go as far as Watch Hill, you kick me. All right? That's no way to talk, Rand said. He put on a smile, as cheerful as he could make it. Of course we'll get home. Come on, get up. We're in a city, and we have a whole day to see it. Where are your clothes? You go. I just want to lie here a while. Perrin put his arm back across his eyes. You go ahead. I'll catch you up in an hour or two. It's your loss, Rand said as he got up. Think of what you might miss. He stopped at the door. Baerlon. How many times have we talked about seeing Baerlon one day? Perrin lay there with his eyes covered and did not say a word. After a minute, Rand stepped out and closed the door behind him. In the hallway, he leaned against the wall, his smile fading. His head still hurt. It was worse, not better. He could not work up much enthusiasm for Baerlon either, not now. He could not summon enthusiasm about anything. A chambermaid came by, her arms full of sheets, and gave him a concerned look. Before she could speak, he moved off down the hall, shrugging into his cloak. Tom would not be finished in the common room for hours yet. He might as well see what he could. Perhaps he could find Matt, and see if Ba'alzamon had been in his dreams too. He went downstairs more slowly this time, rubbing his temple. The stairs ended near the kitchen, so he took that way out, nodding to Sarah, but hurrying on when she seemed about to take up where she had left off. The stable yard was empty except for Much, standing in the stable door, and one of the other ostlers carrying a sack on his shoulder into the stable. Rand nodded to Much too, but the stableman gave him a truculent look and went inside. He hoped the rest of the city was more like Sarah and less like Much. Ready to see what a city was like, he picked up his step. At the open stable-yard gates he stopped and stared. People packed the street like sheep in a pen, people swathed to the eyes in cloaks and coats, hats pulled down against the cold, weaving in and out at a quick step, as though the wind whistling over the rooftops blew them along, elbowing past one another with barely a word or a glance. All strangers, he thought. None of them know each other. The smells were strange too, sharp and sour and sweet, all mixed in a hodgepodge that had him rubbing his nose. Even at the height of festival, he had never seen so many people so jammed together. Not even half so many. And this was only one street. Master Fitch and the cook said the whole city was full. The whole city. Gone possible with this wand. Gone possible with this wand. Like this? He backed slowly away from the gate, away from the street full of people. It really was not right to go off and leave Perrin sick in bed. And what if Tom finished his storytelling while Rand was off in the city? The Gleeman might go out himself, and Rand needed to talk to someone. Much better to wait a bit. He breathed a sigh of relief as he turned his back on the swarming street. Going back inside the inn did not appeal to him, though, not with his headache. He sat on an upended barrel against the back of the inn and hoped the cold air might help his head. Much came to the stable door from time to time to stare at him, and even across the stable yard he could make out the fellow's disapproving scowl. Was it country people the man did not like? Or had he been embarrassed by Master Fitch greeting them after he had tried to chase them off for coming in the back way? Maybe he's a dart friend, he thought, expecting to chuckle at the idea, but it was not a funny thought. He rubbed his hand along the hilt of Tam's sword. There was not much left that was funny at all. "A shepherd with a heron-marked sword," said a low woman's voice. "That's almost enough to make me believe anything. What trouble are you in, down-country boy?" Startled, Rand jumped to his feet. It was the crop-haired young woman who had been with Moiraine when he came out of the bath chamber, still dressed in a boy's coat and breeches. She was a little older than he was, he thought, with dark eyes even bigger than Egwene's, and oddly intent. "You are Rand, aren't you?" she went on. "My name is Min. I'm not in trouble," he said. He did not know what Moiraine had told her, but he remembered Lan's admonition not to attract any notice. "What makes you think I'm in trouble? The Two Rivers is a quiet place, and we're all quiet people. No place for trouble unless it has to do with crops or sheep." "Quiet?" Min said with a faint smile. "I've heard men talk about you, Two Rivers folk. I've heard the jokes about wooden-headed sheep-herders, and then there are men who have actually been down-country." "Wooden-headed?" Rand said, frowning. "What jokes? The ones who know," she went on as if he had not spoken. "Say you walk around all smiles and politeness, just as meek and soft as butter. On the surface, anyway. Underneath, they say, you're all as tough as old oak roots. Prod too hard, they say, and you dig up stone. But the stone isn't buried very deep in you or in your friends. It's as if a storm has scoured away almost all the covering. Moiraine didn't tell me everything, but I see what I see. Old oak roots. Stone. It hardly sounded like the sort of thing the merchants or their people would say. That last made him jump, though. He looked around quickly. The stable yard was empty, and the nearest windows were closed. I don't know anybody named. What was it again? Mistress Alis, then, if you prefer, Min said with an amused look that made his cheeks colour. There's no one close enough to hear. What makes you think Mistress Alice has another name? Because she told me, Min said, so patiently that he blushed again. Not that she had a choice, I suppose. I saw she was. Gone possible, with this wand. Gone possible, with this wand. Different. Gone possible, with this wand. Gone possible, with this wand. Right away. When she stopped here before, on her way down country, she knew about me. I've talked to gone possible, with this wand. Gone possible, with this wand. Others like her before. Saw? Rand said. Well, I don't suppose you'll go running to the children, not considering who your travelling companions are. The Whitecloaks wouldn't like what I do any more than they like what she does. I don't understand. She says I see pieces of the pattern. Min gave a little laugh and shook her head. Sounds too grand to me. I just see things when I look at people, and sometimes I know what they mean. I look at a man and a woman who've never even talked to one another, and I know they'll marry. And they do. That sort of thing. She wanted me to look at you. All of you together. Rand shivered. And what did you see? When you're all in a group? Sparks swirling around you, thousands of them, and a big shadow, darker than midnight. It's so strong, I almost wonder why everybody can't see it. The sparks are trying to fill the shadow, and the shadow is trying to swallow the sparks. She shrugged. You're all tied together in something dangerous, but I can't make any more of it. All of us? Rand muttered. Egwene too? But they weren't after. I mean, Min did not seem to notice his slip. The girl? She's part of it. And the Gleeman? All of you. You're in love with her. He stared at her. I can tell that even without seeing any images. She loves you too, but she's not for you or you for her. Not the way you both want. What's that supposed to mean? When I look at her, I see the same as when I look at Gone Possible, with this wand. Gone Possible, with this wand. Mistress Alice. Other things I don't understand too, but I know what that means. She won't refuse it. This is all foolishness, Rand said uncomfortably. His headache was fading to numbness. His head felt packed with wool. He wanted to get away from this girl and the things she saw. And yet, Gone Possible, with this wand. Gone Possible, with this wand. Gone Possible, with this wand. What do you see when you look at Gone Possible, with this wand? Gone Possible, with this wand. The rest of us? All sorts of things, Min said with a grin, as if she knew what he really wanted to ask. The war. Gone Possible, with this wand. 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 Master Andra has 7 ruined towers around his head and a babe in a cradle holding a sword. And Gone Possible, with this wand. Gone Possible, with this wand. She shook her head. Men like him, you understand, always have so many images they crowd one another. The strongest images around the Gleeman are a man, not him juggling fire, and the White Tower, and that doesn't make any sense at all for a man. The strongest things I see about the big, curly-haired fellow are a wolf and a broken crown and trees flowering all around him. And the other one, a red eagle, an eye on a balance scale, a dagger with a ruby, a horn, and a laughing face. There are other things, but you see what I mean. This time I can't make up or down out of any of it. She waited then, still grinning, until he finally cleared his throat and asked, "What about me?" Her grin stopped just short of outright laughter. The same kind of things as the rest. A sword that isn't a sword, a golden crown of laurel leaves, a beggar's staff, you pouring water on sand, a bloody hand and a white-hot iron. 3 women standing over a funeral bier with you on it, black rock wet with blood. All right, he broke in uneasily. You don't have to list it all. Most of all, I see lightning around you, some striking at you, some coming out of you. I don't know what any of it means, except for one thing. You and I will meet again. She gave him a quizzical look, as if she did not understand that either. Why shouldn't we, he said. I'll be coming back this way on my way home. I suppose you will at that. Suddenly her grin was back, wry and mysterious, and she patted his cheek. But if I told you everything I saw, you'd be as curly-haired as your friend with the shoulders. He jerked back from her hand as if it were red hot. What do you mean? Do you say anything about rats? Or dreams? Rats? No, rats. As for dreams, maybe it's your idea of a dream, but I never thought it was mine. He wondered if she was crazy, grinning like that. I have to go, he said, edging around her. I.W. Wall, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. I have to meet my friends. Go then, but you won't escape. He didn't exactly break into a run, but every step he took was quicker than the step before. Run if you want, she called after him. You can't escape from me. Her laughter sped him across the stable yard and out into the street, into the hubbub of people. Her last words were too close to what Ba'alzamon had said. He blundered into people as he hurried through the crowd, earning hard looks and hard words, but he did not slow down until he was several streets away from the inn. After a time, he began to pay attention again to where he was. His head felt like a balloon, but he stared and enjoyed anyway. He thought Baerlon was a grand city, if not exactly in the same way as cities in Tom's stories. He wandered up broad streets, most paved with flagstone, and down narrow twisting lanes, wherever chance and the shifting of the crowd took him. It had rained during the night, and the streets that were unpaved had already been churned to mud by the crowds. But muddy streets were nothing new to him. None of the streets in Emansfield was paved. There certainly were no palaces, and only a few houses were very much bigger than those back home. But every house had a roof of slate or tile as fine as the roof of the Winespring Inn. He supposed there would be a palace or two in Camelin. As for inns, he counted 9, not one smaller than the Winespring and most as large as the Stag and Lion, and there were plenty of streets he had not seen yet. Shops dotted every street, with awnings out front, sheltering tables covered with goods, everything from cloth to books to pots to boots. It was as if 100 peddlers' wagons had spilled out their contents. He stared so much that more than once he had to hurry on at the suspicious look of a shopkeeper. He had not understood the first shopkeeper's stare. When he did understand, he started to get angry until he remembered that here he was the stranger. He could not have bought much anyway. He gasped when he saw how many coppers were exchanged for a dozen discolored apples or a handful of shriveled turnips, the sort that would be fed to the horses in the 2 rivers, but people seemed eager to pay. There were certainly more than enough people to his estimation. For a while, the sheer number of them almost overwhelmed him. Some wore clothes of finer cut than anyone in the 2 rivers, almost as fine as Moiraine's, and quite a few had long, fur-lined coats that flapped around their ankles. The miners everybody at the inn kept talking about. They had the hunched look of men who grubbed underground. But most of the people did not look any different from those he had grown up with, not in dress or in face. He had expected they would somehow. Indeed, some of them had so much the look of the 2 rivers in their faces that he could imagine they belonged to one family or another that he knew around Emansfield. A toothless, grey-haired fellow with ears like jug handles, sitting on a bench outside one of the inns and peering mournfully into an empty tankard, could easily have been Billy Conger's close cousin. The lantern-jawed tailor sewing in front of his shop might have been John Thane's brother, even to the same bald spot on the back of his head. A near mirror image of Samuel Craw pushed past Rand as he turned a corner and, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. In disbelief, he stared at a bony little man with long arms and a big nose, shoving hurriedly through the crowd in clothes that looked like a bundle of rags. The man's eyes were sunken and his dirty face gaunt, as if he had not eaten or slept in days. But Rand could swear. Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. The ragged man saw him then, and froze in mid-step, heedless of people who all but stumbled over him. The last doubt in Rand's mind vanished. "Master Fane," he shouted. "We all thought you were." As quick as a blink the peddler darted away, but Rand dodged after him, calling apologies over his shoulder to the people he bumped. Through the crowd he just caught sight of Fane dashing into an alleyway, and he turned after. A few steps into the alleyway, the peddler had stopped in his tracks. A tall fence made it into a dead end. As Rand skidded to a halt, Fane rounded on him, crouching warily and backing away. He flapped grimy hands at Rand to stay back. More than one rip showed in his coat, and his cloak was worn and tattered, as if it had seen much harder use than it was meant for. "Master Fane," Rand said hesitantly, "what is the matter?" "It's me, Randall Thor, from Eamon's Field. We all thought the Trollocs had taken you." Fane gestured sharply and, still in a crouch, ran a few crabbed steps toward the open end of the alley. He did not try to pass Rand or even come close to him. "Don't," he rasped. His head shifted constantly as he tried to see everything in the street beyond Rand. "Don't mention." His voice dropped to a hoarse whisper, and he turned his head away, watching Rand with quick, sidelong glances. "Them. There be Whitecloaks in the town." "They have no reason to bother us," Rand said. "Come back to the Stag and Lion with me. I'm staying there with friends. You know most of them. They'll be glad to see you. We all thought you were dead." "Dead?" the peddler snapped indignantly. "Not Padan Fan. Padan Fane knows which way to jump and where to land." He straightened his rags as if they were feast day clothes. "Always have, and always will. I'll live a long time, longer than." Abruptly his face tightened and his hands clutched hold of his coat front. "They burned my wagon and all my goods. Had no cause to be doing that, did they? I couldn't get to my horses. My horses, but that fat old innkeeper had them locked up in his stable. I had to step quick not to get my throat slit, and what did he get me? All that I've got left is what I stand up in. Now, is that fair? Is it now? Your horses are safe in Master Olvia's stable. You can get them any time. If you come to the inn with me, I'm sure Moiraine will help you get back to the Two Rivers." "Ah!" "She's, gone possible. With this wand, gone possible. With this wand." "She's the Aes Sedai, is she?" A guarded look came over Fane's face. "Maybe, though. Gone possible. With this wand, gone possible. With this wand." He paused, licking his lips nervously. "How long will you be at this? What was it? What did you call it? The Stag and Lion?" "We leave tomorrow," Rand said. "But what does that have to do with?" "You just don't know," Fane whined, standing there with a full belly and a good night's sleep in a soft bed. "I've hardly slept a wink since that night. My boots are all worn out with running, and as for what I've had to eat, gone possible. With this wand, gone possible. With this wand." His face twisted. "I don't want to be within miles of an Aes Sedai," he spat the last words. "Not miles of miles, but I may have to. I've no choice, have I? The thought of her eyes on me, of her even knowing where I am. Gone possible. With this wand, gone possible. With this wand." He reached toward Rand as if he wanted to grab his coat, but his hands stopped short, fluttering, and he actually took a step back. "Promise me you won't tell her. She frightens me. There's no need to be telling her. No reason for an Aes Sedai to even be knowing I'm alive. You have to promise." "You have to. I promise," Rand said soothingly. "But there's no reason for you to be afraid of her. Come with me. The least you'll get is a hot meal. Maybe." "Maybe." Fane rubbed his chin pensively. "Tomorrow, you say? In that time, gone possible. With this wand, gone possible. With this wand, gone possible. With this wand." "You won't forget your promise? You won't be letting her. Gone possible. With this wand, gone possible. With this wand." "I won't let her hurt you," Rand said, wondering how he could stop an Aes Sedai, whatever she wanted to do. "She won't hurt me," Fane said. "No, she won't. I won't be letting her." Like a flash, he hurried past Rand into the crowd. "Master Fane," Rand called. "Wait." He dashed out of the alley just in time to catch sight of a ragged coat disappearing around the next corner. Still calling, he ran after it, darted around the corner. He only had time to see a man's back before he crashed into it, and they both went down in a heap in the mud. "Can't you watch where you're going?" came a mutter from under him, and Rand scrambled up in surprise. "Matt?" Matt sat up with a baleful glare and began scraping mud off his cloak with his hands. "You must really be turning into a city man. Sleep all morning and run right over people." Climbing to his feet, he stared at his muddy hands, then muttered and wiped them off on his cloak. "Listen, you'll never guess who I thought I just saw." "Padan Fain," Rand said. "Padan Fa, how did you know?" "I was talking to him, but he ran off." "So the Tro." Matt stopped to look around warily, but the crowd was passing them by with never a glance. Rand was glad he had learned a little caution, so they didn't get him. I wonder why he left Emmons Field without a word like that. Probably started running then, too, and didn't stop until he got here. But why was he running just now? Rand shook his head and wished he had not. It felt as though it might fall off. "I don't know, except that he's afraid to gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, Mistress Alis." All this, watching what you said, was not easy. He doesn't want her to know he's here. He made me promise I wouldn't tell her. "Well, his secret is safe with me," Matt said. "I wish she didn't know where I was either." "Matt?" People still streamed by without paying them any heed, but Rand lowered his voice anyway and leaned closer. "Matt, did you have a nightmare last night? About a man who killed a rat?" Matt stared at him without blinking. "You too," he said finally. "And Perrin, I suppose. I almost asked him this morning, but gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. He must have. Blood and ashes. Now somebody's making us dream things. Randy wished nobody knew where I was. There were dead rats all over the inn this morning. He did not feel as afraid at saying it as he would have earlier. He did not feel much of anything. Their backs were broken. His voice rang in his own ears. If he was getting sick, he might have to go to Moiraine. He was surprised that even the thought of the one power being used on him did not bother him. Matt took a deep breath, hitching his cloak, and looked around as if searching for somewhere to go. "What's happening to us, Rand?" "What? I don't know. I'm going to ask Tom for advice about whether to tell, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand." "Anyone else?" "No!" "Not her." Maybe him, but not her. The sharpness of it took Rand by surprise. "Then you believed him? He did not need to say which him he meant?" The grimace on Matt's face said he understood. "No," Matt said slowly. "It's the chances, that's all. If we tell her, and he was lying, then maybe nothing happens. Maybe. But maybe just him being in our dreams is enough for gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. I don't know." He stopped to swallow. "If we don't tell her, maybe we'll have some more dreams. Rats or no rats, dreams are better than gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. Remember the ferry?" "I say we keep quiet." "All right." Rand remembered the ferry and Moraine's threat too, but somehow it seemed a long time ago. "All right. Perrin won't say anything, will he?" Matt went on, bouncing on his toes. "We have to get back to him. If he tells her, she'll figure it out about all of us. You can bet on it. Come on." He started off briskly through the crowd. Rand stood there looking after him until Matt came back and grabbed him. At the touch on his arm, he blinked, then followed his friend. "What's the matter with you?" Matt asked. "You going to sleep again?" "I think I have a cold," Rand said. His head was as tight as a drum and almost as empty. "You can get some chicken soup when we get back to the inn," Matt said. He kept up a constant chatter as they hunted through the packed streets. Rand made an effort to listen and even to say something now and then, but it was an effort. He was not tired, he did not want to sleep, he just felt as if he were drifting. After a while he found himself telling Matt about Min. "A dagger with a ruby, eh?" Matt said. "I like that. I don't know about the eye, though. Are you sure she wasn't making it up? It seems to me she would know what it all means if she really is a soothsayer." "She didn't say she's a soothsayer," Rand said. "I believe she does see things. Remember, Moiraine was talking to her when we finished our baths. And she knows who Moiraine is." Matt frowned at him. "I thought we weren't supposed to use that name." "No," Rand muttered. He rubbed his head with both hands. It was so hard to concentrate on anything. "I think maybe you really are sick," Mat said, still frowning. Suddenly he pulled Rand to a stop by his coat sleeve. "Look at them." 3 men in breastplates and conical steel caps, burnished till they shone like silver, were making their way down the street toward Rand and Mat. Even the mail on their arms gleamed. Their long cloaks, pristine white and embroidered on the left breast with a golden sunburst, just cleared the mud and puddles of the street. Their hands rested on their sword hilts, and they looked around them as if looking at things that had wriggled out from under a rotting log. Nobody looked back, though. Nobody even seemed to notice them. Just the same, the 3 did not have to push through the crowd. The bustle parted to either side of the white-cloaked men, as if by happenstance, leaving them to walk in a clear space that moved with them. "Do you suppose they're children of the light?" Mat asked in a loud voice. A passerby looked hard at Mat, then quickened his pace. Rand nodded. Children of the light. Whitecloaks. Men who hated Aes Sedai. Men who told people how to live, causing trouble for those who refused to obey. If burned farms, and worse, could be called as mild as trouble. I should be afraid, he thought, or curious. Something, at any rate. Instead, he stared at them passively. They don't look like so much to me, Mat said. Full of themselves, though, aren't they? They don't matter, Rand said. The inn. We have to talk to Perrin, like Eward Conger. He always has his nose in the air, too. Suddenly, Mat grinned, a twinkle in his eye. Remember when he fell off the wagon bridge and had to tramp home dripping wet? That took him down a peg for a month. What does that have to do with Perrin? See that? Mat pointed to a cart resting on its shafts in an alleyway just ahead of the children. A single stake held a dozen stacked barrels in place on the flatbed. Watch. Laughing, he darted into a cutler's shop to their left. Rand stared after him, knowing he should do something. That look in Mat's eyes always meant one of his tricks. But oddly, he found himself looking forward to whatever Mat was going to do. Something told him that feeling was wrong, that it was dangerous, but he smiled in anticipation anyway. In a minute, Mat appeared above him, climbing half out of an attic window onto the tile roof of the shop. His sling was in his hands, already beginning to whirl. Rand's eyes went back to the cart. Almost immediately, there was a sharp crack, and the stake holding the barrels broke just as the Whitecloaks came abreast of the alley. People jumped out of the way as the barrels rolled down the cart shafts with an empty rumble and jounced into the street, splashing mud and muddy water in every direction. The 3 children jumped no less quickly than anyone else, their superior looks replaced by surprise. Some passers-by fell down, making more splashes, but the 3 moved agilely, avoiding the barrels with ease. They could not avoid the flying mud that splattered their white cloaks, though. A bearded man in a long apron hurried out of the alley, waving his arms and shouting angrily, but one look at the 3 trying vainly to shake the mud from their cloaks, and he vanished back into the alley even faster than he had come out. Rand glanced up at the shop roof. Mat was gone. It had been an easy shot for any Two Rivers lad, but the effect was certainly all that could be hoped for. He could not help laughing. The humor seemed to be wrapped in wool, but it was still funny. When he turned back to the street, the 3 Whitecloaks were staring straight at him. "You find something funny, yes?" The one who spoke stood a little in front of the others. He wore an arrogant, unblinking look, with a light in his eyes as if he knew something important, something no one else knew. Rand's laughter cut off short. He and the children were alone with the mud and the barrels. The crowd that had been all around them had found urgent business up or down the street. "Does fear of the light hold your tongue?" Anger made the Whitecloak's narrow face seem even more pinched. He glanced dismissively at the sword hilt sticking out from Rand's cloak. "Perhaps you are responsible for this, yes?" Unlike the others, he had a golden knot beneath the sunburst on his cloak. Rand moved to cover the sword, but instead swept his cloak back over his shoulder. In the back of his head was a frantic wonder at what he was doing, but it was a distant thought. "Accidents happen," he said, "even to the children of the light." The narrow-faced man raised an eyebrow. "You are that dangerous, youngling?" He was not much older than Rand. "Heron Mark, Lord Bornhold," one of the others said warningly. The narrow-faced man glanced at Rand's sword hilt again. The bronze heron was plain, and his eyes widened momentarily. Then his gaze rose to Rand's face, and he sniffed dismissively. "He is too young. You are not from this place, yes?" he said coldly to Rand. "You come from where?" "I just arrived in Baerlon." A tingling thrill ran along Rand's arms and legs. He felt flushed, almost warm. "You wouldn't know of a good inn, would you? You avoid my questions," Bornhold snapped. "What evil is in you that you do not answer me?" His companions moved up to either side of him, faces hard and expressionless. Despite the mud-stains on their cloaks, there was nothing funny about them now. The tingling filled Rand. The heat had grown to a fever. He wanted to laugh. It felt so good. A small voice in his head shouted that something was wrong, but all he could think of was how full of energy he felt, nearly bursting with it. Smiling, he rocked on his heels and waited for what was going to happen. Vaguely, distantly, he wondered what it would be. The leader's face darkened. One of the others drew his sword enough for an inch of steel to show and spoke in a voice quivering with anger. "When the children of the light ask questions, you grey-eyed bumpkin, we expect answers," or he cut off as the narrow-faced man threw an arm across his chest. Bornhold jerked his head up the street. The town watch had arrived. A dozen men in round steel caps and studded leather jerkins, carrying quarterstaffs as if they knew how to use them. They stood watching, silently, from 10 paces off. "This town has lost the light," growled the man who had half drawn his sword. He raised his voice to shout at the watch. "Baerlon stands in the shadow of the Dark One." At a gesture from Bornhold, he slammed his blade back into its scabbard. Bornhold turned his attention back to Rand. The light of knowing burned in his eyes. "Dark friends do not escape us, youngling, even in a town that stands in the shadow. We will meet again. You may be sure of it." He spun on his heel and strode away, his two companions close behind, as if Rand had ceased to exist, for the moment at least. When they reached the crowded part of the street, the same seemingly accidental pocket as before opened around them. The watchmen hesitated, eyeing Rand, then shouldered their quarterstaffs and followed the Whitecloaks 3. They had to push their way into the crowd, shouting, "Make way for the watch!" Few did make way, except grudgingly. Rand still rocked on his heels, waiting. The tingle was so strong that he almost quivered. He felt as if he were burning up. Matt came out of the shop, staring at him. "You aren't sick," he said finally. "You are crazy." Rand drew a deep breath, and abruptly it was all gone like a pricked bubble. He staggered as it vanished, the realization of what he had just done flooding in on him. Licking his lips, he met Matt's stare. "I think we'd better go back to the inn now," he said unsteadily. "Yes," Matt said. "Yes, I think we better had." The street had begun to fill up again, and more than one passerby stared at the two boys and murmured something to a companion. Rand was sure the story would spread. A crazy man had tried to start a fight with 3 children of the light. That was something to talk about. Maybe the dreams are driving me crazy. The two lost their way several times in the haphazard streets, but after a while they fell in with Tom Merrilin, making a grand procession all by himself through the throng. The gleeman said he was out to stretch his legs and for a bit of fresh air, but whenever anyone looked twice at his colourful cloak, he would announce in a resounding voice, "I am at the Stag and Lion, tonight only." It was Matt who began disjointedly telling Tom about the dream and their worry over whether or not to tell Moiraine, but Rand joined in, for there were differences in exactly how they remembered it. Or maybe each dream was a little different, he thought. The major part of the dreams was the same, though. They had not gone far in the telling before Tom started paying full attention. When Rand mentioned Ba'alzamon, the gleeman grabbed them each by a shoulder with a command to hold their tongues, raised on tiptoe to look over the heads of the crowd, then hustled them out of the press to a dead-end alley that was empty except for a few crates and a slat-ribbed yellow dog huddled out of the cold. Tom stared out at the crowd, looking for anyone stopping to listen, before turning his attention to Rand and Matt. His blue eyes bored into theirs, between flickering away to watch the mouth of the alley. "Don't ever say that name where strangers can hear." His voice was low but urgent. "Not even where a stranger might hear. It is a very dangerous name, even where children of the light are not wandering the streets." Matt snorted. "I could tell you about children of the light," he said with a wry look at Rand. Tom ignored him. "If only one of you had had this dream. Gone possible with this wand. Gone possible with this wand. This..." He tugged at his moustache furiously. "Tell me everything you can remember about it. Every detail. He kept up his wary watch while he listened. Gone possible. With this wand. Gone possible. With this wand. He named the men he said had been used, Rand said finally. He thought he had told everything else. Gwaia Amalasan, Rowlin Darksbane, Davian, Matt added before he could go on. And Urian Stonebow. And Loghain, Rand finished. Dangerous names, Tom muttered. His eyes seemed to drill at them even more intently than before. Nearly as dangerous as that other, one way and another. All dead now, except for Loghain. Some long dead. Rowlin Darksbane, nearly 2,000 years. But dangerous just the same. Best you don't say them aloud even when you're alone. Most people wouldn't recognize one of them, but if the wrong person overhears, gone possible. With this wand. Gone possible. With this wand. But who were they? Rand said. Men, Tom murmured. Men who shook the pillars of heaven and rocked the world on its foundations. He shook his head. It doesn't matter. And forget about them. They are dust now. Did the gone possible with this wand, gone possible with this wand, were they used like he said? Matt asked. And killed? You might say the White Tower killed them. You might say that. Tom's mouth tightened momentarily, then he shook his head again. But used, gone possible with this wand, gone possible with this wand. No, I cannot see that. The light knows the Aemlin's seat has enough plots going, but I can't see that. Matt shivered. He said so many things. Crazy things. All that about Luz Therin Kinslayer and Artur Hawkwing, and the Eye of the World. What in the light is that supposed to be? A legend, the Gleeman said slowly. Maybe. As big a legend as the Horn of Valere, at least in the Borderlands. Up there, young men go hunting the Eye of the World, the way young men from Ilion hunt the Horn. Maybe a legend. What do we do, Tom? Rand said. Do we tell her? I don't want any more dreams like that. Maybe she could do something. Maybe we wouldn't like what she did, Matt growled. Tom studied them, considering and stroking his mustache with a knuckle. I say hold your peace, he said finally. Don't tell anyone for the time at least. You can always change your mind if you have to, but once you tell, it's done, and you're tied up worse than ever with gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, with her. Suddenly he straightened, his stoop almost disappearing. The other lad. You say he had the same dream? Does he have sense enough to keep his mouth shut? I think so, Rand said at the same time that Matt said we were going back to the inn to warn him. The lights send we're not too late. Cloak flapping around his ankles, patches fluttering in the wind, Tom strode out of the alley, looking back over his shoulder without stopping. Well, are your feet pegged to the ground? Rand and Matt hurried after him, but he did not wait for them to catch up. This time he did not pause for people who looked at his cloak, or those who hailed him as a gleeman either. He clove through the crowded streets, as if they were empty, Rand and Matt half running to follow in his wake. In much less time than Rand expected, they were hurrying up to the Stag and Lion. As they started in, Perrin came speeding out, trying to throw his cloak around his shoulders as he ran. He nearly fell in his effort not to carom into them. I was coming looking for you two, he panted when he had caught his balance. Rand grabbed him by the arm. Did you tell anyone about the dream? Say that you didn't, Matt demanded. It's very important, Tom said. Perrin looked at them in confusion. No, I haven't. I didn't even get out of bed until less than an hour ago. His shoulders slumped. I've given myself a headache, trying not to think about it, much less talk about it. Why did you tell him? He nodded at the Gleeman. We had to talk to somebody or go crazy, Rand said. I will explain later, Tom added with a significant look at the people passing in and out of the Stag and Lion. All right, Perrin replied slowly, still looking confused. Suddenly he slapped his head. You almost made me forget why I was looking for you, not that I don't wish I could. Nynaeve is inside. Blood and ashes, Matt yelped. How did she get here? Moiraine. Gone possible. With this wand. Gone possible. With this wand. Gone possible. With this wand. The ferry. Gone possible. With this wand. Gone possible. With this wand. Perrin snorted. You think a little thing like a sunken ferry could stop her? She rooted Hightower out. I don't know how he got back over the river, but she said he was hiding in his bedroom and didn't want to go near the river. Anyway, she bullied him into finding a boat big enough for her and her horse and rowing her across. Himself. She only gave him time to find one of his haulers to work another set of oars. Light! Matt breathed. What is she doing here? Rand wanted to know. Matt and Perrin both gave him a scornful look. She came after us, Perrin said. She's with Thor? Gone possible. With this wand. Gone possible. With this wand. With Mistress Alice right now, and it's cold enough in there to snow. Couldn't we just go somewhere else for a while? Matt asked. Midar says, only a fool puts his hand in a hornet nest until he absolutely has to. Rand cut in. She can't make us go back. Winter night should have been enough to make her see that. If she doesn't, we will have to make her. Matt's eyebrows lifted higher with every word, and when Rand finished, he let out a low whistle. You ever try to make Nynaeve see something she doesn't want to see? I have. I say we stay away till night, and sneak in then. From my observation of the young woman, Tom said, I don't think she will stop until she has had her say. If she is not allowed to have it soon, she might keep on until she attracts attention none of us wants. That brought them all up short. They exchanged glances, drew deep breaths, and marched inside as if to face Trollocs. Perrin led the way into the depths of the inn. Rand was so intent on what he intended to say to Nynaeve that he did not see Min until she seized his arm and pulled him to one side. The others kept on a few steps down the hall before realizing he had stopped. Then they halted too, half impatient to go on, half reluctant to do so. We don't have time for that, boy, Tom said gruffly. Min gave the white-haired gleeman a sharp look. Go juggle something, she snapped, drawing Rand further away from the others. I really don't have time, Rand told her. Certainly not for any more fool talk about escaping and the like. He tried to get his arm loose, but every time he pulled free, she grabbed it again. And I don't have time for your foolishness either. Will you be still? She gave the others a quick look, then moved closer, lowering her voice. A woman arrived a little while ago, shorter than I, young, with dark eyes and dark hair in a braid down to her waist. She's part of it, right along with the rest of you. For a minute, Rand just stared at her. Nynaeve, how can she be involved? Light, how can I be involved? That's the gone possible with this wand. Gone possible with this wand. Impossible. You know her? Min whispered. Yes, and she can't be mixed in. Gone possible with this wand. Gone possible with this wand. In whatever it is, you. Gone possible with this wand. Gone possible with this wand. Too. The sparks, Rand. She met Mistress Alice coming in, and there were sparks, with just the two of them. Yesterday I couldn't see sparks without at least 3 or 4 of you together, but today it's all sharper and more furious. She looked at Rand's friends, waiting impatiently, and shivered before turning back to him. It's almost a wonder the inn doesn't catch fire. You're all in more danger today than yesterday. Since she came. Rand glanced at his friends. Tom, his brows drawn down in a bushy V, was leaning forward on the point of taking some action to hurry him along. She won't do anything to hurt us, he told Min. I have to go now. He succeeded in getting his arm back this time. Ignoring her squawk, he joined the others, and they started off again down the corridor. Rand looked back once. Min shook her fist at him and stamped her foot. What did she have to say? Matt asked. Nynaeve is part of it, Rand said without thinking, then shot Matt a hard look that caught him with his mouth open. Then understanding slowly spread across Matt's face. Part of what? Tom said softly. Does that girl know something? While Rand was still trying to gather in his head what to say, Matt spoke up. Of course she's part of it, he said grumpily. Part of the same bad luck we've been having since winter night. Maybe having the wisdom show up is no great affair to you, but I'd as soon have the Whitecloaks here myself. She saw Nynaeve arrive, Rand said. Saw her talking to Mistress Alice, and thought she might have something to do with us. Tom gave him a sidelong look and ruffled his moustaches with a snort, but the others seemed to accept Rand's explanation. He did not like keeping secrets from his friends, but Min's secret could be as dangerous for her as any of theirs was for them. Perrin stopped suddenly in front of a door, and despite his size, he seemed oddly hesitant. He drew a deep breath, looked at his companions, took another breath, then slowly opened the door and went in. One by one, the rest of them followed. Rand was the last, and he closed the door behind him with the utmost reluctance. It was the room where they had eaten the night before. A blaze crackled on the hearth, and a polished silver tray sat in the middle of the table, holding a gleaming silver pitcher and cups. Moiraine and Nynaeve sat at opposite ends of the table, neither taking her eyes from the other. All the other chairs were empty. Moiraine's hands rested on the table, as still as her face. Nynaeve's braid was thrown over her shoulder, the end gripped in one fist. She kept giving it little tugs, the way she did when she was being even more stubborn than usual with the village council. Perrin was right. Despite the fire, it seemed freezing cold, and all coming from the two women at the table. Lan was leaning against the mantel, staring into the flames and rubbing his hands for warmth. Egwene, her back flat against the wall, had her cloak on with the hood pulled up. Tom, Matt and Perrin stopped uncertainly in front of the door. Shrugging uncomfortably, Rand walked to the table. Sometimes you have to grab the wolf by the ears, he reminded himself. But he remembered another old saying, too. When you have a wolf by the ears, it's as hard to let go as to hold on. He felt Moiraine's eyes on him and Nynaeve's, and his face became hot, but he sat down anyway, halfway between the two. For a minute, the room was as still as a carving. Then Egwene and Perrin, and finally Matt, made their reluctant way to the table and took seats toward the middle with Rand. Egwene tugged her hood further forward, enough to half hide her face, and they all avoided looking at anyone. "Well," Tom snorted from his place beside the door, "at least that much is done." "Since everyone is here," Lan said, leaving the fireplace and filling one of the silver cups with wine, "perhaps you will finally take this." He proffered the cup to Nynaeve. She looked at it suspiciously. "There is no need to be afraid," he said patiently. "You saw the innkeeper bring the wine, and neither of us has had a chance to put anything in it. It is quite safe." The wisdom's mouth tightened angrily at the word afraid, but she took the cup with a murmured, "Thank you." "I am interested," he said, "in how you found us. So am I." Moiraine leaned forward intently. "Perhaps you are willing to speak now that Egwene and the boys have been brought to you." Nynaeve sipped the wine before answering the Aes Sedai. "There was nowhere for you to go except Baerlon. To be safe, though, I followed your trail. You certainly cut back and forth enough. But then, I suppose you would not care to risk meeting decent people. You, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand." "Followed our trail," Lan said, truly surprised for the first time that Rand could remember. "I must be getting careless. You left very little trace, but I can track as well as any man in the two rivers, except perhaps Tam or Thor." She hesitated, then added, "Until my father died, he took me hunting with him and taught me what he would have taught the sons he never had." She looked at Lan challengingly, but he only nodded with approval. "If you can follow a trail I have tried to hide, he taught you well. Few can do that, even in the borderlands." Abruptly, Nynaeve buried her face in her cup. Rand's eyes widened. She was blushing. Nynaeve never showed herself even the least bit disconcerted. Angry, yes, outraged, often, but never out of countenance. But she was certainly red-cheeked now, and trying to hide in the wine. "Perhaps now," Moiraine said quietly, "you will answer a few of my questions." "I have answered yours freely enough." "With a great sackful of Bleeman's tales," Nynaeve retorted. "The only facts I can see are that 4 young people have been carried off, for the light alone knows what reason, by an Aes Sedai." "You have been told that isn't known here," Lan said sharply. "You must learn to guard your tongue." "Why should I?" Nynaeve demanded. "Why should I help hide you, or what you are? I've come to take Egwene and the boys back to Emond's Field, not help you spirit them away." Tom broke in a scornful voice. "If you want them to see their village again, or you either, you had better be more careful. There are those in Baerlon who would kill her." He jerked his head toward Moiraine, "for what she is. Him, too." He indicated Lan, then abruptly moved forward to put his fists on the table. He loomed over Nynaeve, and his long moustaches and thick eyebrows suddenly seemed threatening. Her eyes widened, and she started to lean back, away from him, then her back stiffened defiantly. Tom did not appear to notice. He went right on, in an ominously soft voice. "They'd swarm over this inn like murderous ants on a rumour, a whisper. Their hate is that strong, their desire to kill or take any like these two. And the girl, the boys, you are all associated with them, enough for the Whitecloaks anyway. You wouldn't like the way they ask questions, especially when the White Tower is involved. Whitecloak questioners assume you're guilty before they start, and they have only one sentence for that kind of guilt. They don't care about finding the truth, they think they know that already. All they go after with their hot irons and pincers is a confession. Best you remember some secrets are too dangerous for saying aloud, even when you think you know who hears. He straightened with a muttered, "I seem to tell that to people often of late." "Well put, Gleeman," Lan said. The warder had that weighing look in his eyes again. "I'm surprised to find you so concerned." Tom shrugged. "It's known I arrived with you, too. I don't care for the thought of a questioner with a hot iron telling me to repent my sins and walk in the light. That," Nynaeve put in sharply, "is just one more reason for them to come home with me in the morning. Or this afternoon, for that matter. The sooner we're away from you and on our way back to Eamon's Field, the better." "We can't," Rand said, and was glad that his friends all spoke up at the same time. That way, Nynaeve's glare had to be spread around. She spared no one as it was. But he had spoken first, and they all fell silent, looking at him. Even Moiraine sat back in her chair, watching him over steepled fingers. It was an effort for him to meet the wisdom's eyes. "If we go back to Eamon's Field, the Trollocs will come back too. They're gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, hunting us. I don't know why, but they are. Maybe we can find out why in Tar Valon. Maybe we can find out how to stop it. It's the only way." Nynaeve threw up her hands. "You sound just like Tam. He had himself carried to the village meeting and tried to convince everybody. He'd already tried with the village council. The light knows how you're gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand." Mistress Alice, she invested the name with a wagon load of scorn, managed to make him believe he has a mite of sense usually, more than most men. In any case, the council is a pack of fools most of the time, but not foolish enough for that, and neither was anyone else. They agreed you had to be found. Then Tam wanted to be the one to come after you, and him not able to stand by himself. Foolishness must run in your family. Matt cleared his throat, then mumbled, "What about Midar? What did he say? He's afraid you'll try your tricks with Outlanders and get your head thumped." He seemed more afraid of that than of gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, Mistress Alice here. But then, he was never much brighter than you. Matt seemed unsure how to take what she had said, or how to reply, or even whether to reply. "I expect," Perrin began hesitantly. I suppose Master Luhan was not too pleased about my leaving either. Did you expect him to be?" Nynaeve shook her head disgustedly and looked at Egwene. "Maybe I should not be surprised at this harebrained idiocy from you three, but I thought others had more judgment." Egwene sat back, so she was shielded by Perrin. "I left a note," she said faintly. She tugged at the hood of her cloak as if she was afraid her unbound hair showed. "I explained everything." Nynaeve's face darkened. Rand sighed. The wisdom was on the point of one of her tongue lashings, and it looked as if it might be a first-rate one, if she took a position in the heat of anger. If she said she intended to see them back in Eamon's Field, no matter what anybody said, for instance, she would be nearly impossible to budge. He opened his mouth. "A note," Nynaeve began, just as Moiraine said. "You and I must still talk, Wisdom. If Rand could have stopped himself, he would have, but the words poured out as if it were a floodgate he had opened instead of his mouth. All this is very well, but it doesn't change anything. We can't go back. We have to go on." He spoke more slowly toward the end, and his voice sank, so he finished in a whisper, with the Wisdom and the Aes Sedai both looking at him. It was the sort of look he received if he came on women talking women's circle business, the sort that said he had stepped in where he did not belong. He sat back, wishing he was somewhere else. "Wisdom," Moiraine said, "you must believe that they are safer with me than they would be back in the Two Rivers." "Safer?" Nynaeve tossed her head dismissively. "You are the one who brought them here, where the Whitecloaks are. The same Whitecloaks who, if the Gleeman tells the truth, may harm them because of you. Tell me how they are safer, Aes Sedai." There are many dangers from which I cannot protect them, Moiraine agreed, any more than you can protect them from being struck by lightning if they go home. But it is not lightning of which they must be afraid, nor even Whitecloaks. It is the Dark One and minions of the Dark One. From those things I can protect. Touching the true source, touching Sedai, gives me that protection as it does to every Aes Sedai. Nynaeve's mouth tightened skeptically. Moraine's grew tighter too with anger, but she went on, her voice hard on the edge of patience. Even those poor men who find themselves wielding the power for a short time gain that much, though sometimes touching Sedai protects, and sometimes the taint makes them more vulnerable. But I, or any Aes Sedai, can extend my protection to those close by me. No Fade can harm them as long as they are as close to me as they are right now. No Trolloc can come within a quarter of a mile without Lan knowing it, feeling the evil of it. Can you offer them half as much if they return to Emond's field with you? You stand-up strawmen, Nynaeve said. We have a saying in the Two Rivers. Whether the bear beats the wolf or the wolf beats the bear, the rabbit always loses. Take your contest somewhere else and leave Emond's field folk out of it. Egwene, Moiraine said after a moment, take the others and leave the wisdom alone with me for a while. Her face was impassive. Nynaeve squared herself at the table as if getting ready for an all-in wrestling match. Egwene bounced to her feet, her desire to be dignified obviously warring with her desire to avoid a confrontation with the wisdom over her unbraided hair. She had no difficulty gathering up everyone by eye, though. Mat and Perrin scraped back their chairs hurriedly, making polite murmurs while trying not to actually run on their way out. Even Lan started for the door at a signal from Moiraine, drawing Tom with him. Rand followed, and the warder shut the door behind them, then took up guard across the hallway. Under Lan's eyes, the others moved on down the hall a short distance. They were not to be allowed even the slightest chance of eavesdropping. When they had gone far enough to suit him, Lan leaned back against the wall. Even without his color-shifting cloak, he was so still that it would be easy not to notice him until you were right on him. The gleeman muttered something about better things to do with his time and left with a stern, "Remember what I said," over his shoulder to the boys. No one else seemed inclined to leave. What did he mean? Egwene asked absently, her eyes on the door that hid Moiraine and Nynaeve. She kept fiddling with her hair as if torn between continuing to hide the fact that it was no longer braided and pushing back the hood of her cloak. "He gave us some advice," Mat said. Perrin gave him a sharp look. "He said not to open our mouths until we were sure what we were going to say." "That sounds like good advice," Egwene said, but clearly she was not really interested. Rand was engrossed in his own thoughts. How could Nynaeve possibly be part of it? How could any of them be involved with Trollocs and Fades and Ba'alzamon appearing in their dreams? It was crazy. He wondered if Min had told Moiraine about Nynaeve. What are they saying in there? He had no idea how long he had been standing there when the door finally opened. Nynaeve stepped out and gave a start when she saw Lan. The warder murmured something that made her toss her head angrily, then he slipped past her through the door. She turned toward Rand, and for the first time he realized the others had all quietly disappeared. He did not want to face the wisdom alone, but he could not get away now that he had met Nynaeve's eye. A particularly searching eye, he thought, puzzled. What did they say? He drew himself up as she came closer. She indicated Tam's sword. "That seems to fit you now, though I would like it better if it did not." "You've grown, Rand." "In a week?" He laughed, but it sounded forced, and she shook her head as if he did not understand. "Did she convince you?" he asked. "It really is the only way." He paused, thinking of Min's sparks. "Are you coming with us?" Nynaeve's eyes opened wide. "Coming with you? With you? Why would I do that? Mavra Malin came up from Devon Ride to see to things till I return, but she'll be wanting to get back as soon as she can. I still hope to make you see sense and come home with me." "We can't!" He thought he saw something move at the still open door, but they were alone in the hallway. "You told me that, and she did too." Nynaeve frowned. If she wasn't mixed up in it. Gone possible. With this wand. Gone possible. With this wand. Gone possible. With this wand. Aes Sedai are not to be trusted, Rand. "You sound as if you really do believe us," he said slowly. "What happened at the village meeting?" Nynaeve looked back at the doorway before answering. There was no movement there now. It was a shambles, but there is no need for her to know. We can't handle our affairs any better than that. And I believe only one thing. You are all in danger as long as you are with her." "Something happened," he insisted. "Why do you want us to go back if you think there's even a chance we are right? And why you at all? As soon send the mayor himself as the wisdom. You have grown." She smiled, and for a moment her amusement had him shifting his feet. "I can think of a time when you would not have questioned where I chose to go or what I chose to do, wherever or whatever it was. A time just a week ago." He cleared his throat and pressed on stubbornly. "It doesn't make sense. Why are you really here?" She half glanced at the still empty doorway, then took his arm. "Let's walk while we talk." He let himself be led away, and when they were far enough from the door not to be overheard, she began again. "As I said, the meeting was a shambles. Everybody agreed someone had to be sent after you, but the village split into two groups. One wanted you rescued, though there was considerable argument over how that was to be done, considering that you were with a gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, the likes of her." He was glad she was remembering to watch what she said. "The others believed, Tam," he said. "Not exactly, but they thought you shouldn't be among strangers either, especially not with someone like her. Either way, though, almost every man wanted to be one of the party. Tam and Bran Orvir with the scales of office around his neck, and Haral Luhan till Alspet made him sit down. Even Senbui. The light saved me from men who think with the hair on their chests, though I don't know as there are any other kind." She gave a hearty sniff and looked up at him, an accusing glance. "At any rate, I could see it would be another day, perhaps more, before they came to any decision, and somehow, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. Somehow I was sure we did not dare wait that long. So I called the women's circle together and told them what had to be done. I cannot say they liked it, but they saw the right of it. And that is why I am here, because the men around Eamon's Field are stubborn woolheads. They're probably still arguing about who to send, though I left word I would take care of it." Nynaeve's story explained her presence, but it did nothing to reassure him. She was still determined to bring them back with her. "What did she say to you in there?" he asked. Moiraine would surely have covered every argument, but if there was one she had missed, he would make it. "More of the same," Nynaeve replied, "and she wanted to know about you boys, to see if she could reason out why you, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, have attracted the kind of attention you have. Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand," she said. She paused, watching him out of the corner of her eye. She tried to disguise it, but most of all she wanted to know if any of you was born outside the two rivers. His face was suddenly as taut as a drumhead. He managed a hoarse chuckle. "She does think of some odd things. I hope you assured her we're all Eamon's Field born." "Of course," she replied. There had only been a heartbeat's pause before she spoke, so brief he would have missed it if he had not been watching for it. He tried to think of something to say, but his tongue felt like a piece of leather. "She knows." She was the wisdom, after all, and the wisdom was supposed to know everything about everyone. If she knows, it was no fever dream. "Oh, light, help me, father." "Are you all right?" Nynaeve asked. He said, "Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand," Sedai. "Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand," wasn't his son when he was delirious. "Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand." "With the fever?" "He said he found me. I thought it was just gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand." His throat began to burn, and he had to stop. "Oh, Rand." She stopped and took his face in both hands. She had to reach up to do it. People say strange things in a fever, twisted things, things that are not true or real. Listen to me. Tam or Thor ran away seeking adventure when he was a boy no older than you. I could just remember when he came back to Eamon's Field, a grown man with a red-haired outlander wife and a babe in swaddling clothes. I remember Carliel Thor cradling that child in her arms with as much love given and delight taken as I have ever seen from any woman with a babe. Her child, Rand. You. Now you straighten up and stop this foolishness. Of course, he said. I was born outside the two rivers. Of course. Maybe Tam had been having a fever dream, and maybe he had found a baby after a battle. Why didn't you tell her? It is none of any outlander's business. Were any of the others born outside? As soon as the question was out, he shook his head. No, don't answer. It's none of my business either. But it would be nice to know if Moiraine had some special interest in him over and above what she had in the whole lot of them. Would it? No, it isn't your business, Nynaeve agreed. It might not mean anything. She could just be searching blindly for a reason, any reason, why those things are after you, after all of you. Rand managed to grin. Then you do believe they're chasing us? Nynaeve shook her head wryly. You've certainly learned how to twist words since you met her. What are you going to do? He asked. She studied him. He met her eyes steadily. Today I'm going to have a bath. For the rest we will have to see, won't we? After the wisdom left him, Rand made his way to the common room. He needed to hear people laughing, to forget what Nynaeve had said and the trouble she might cause alike. The room was crowded indeed, but no one was laughing, though every chair and bench was filled and people lined the walls. Tom was performing again, standing on a table against the far wall, his gestures grand enough to fill the big room. It was the great hunt of the Horn again, but no one complained, of course. There were so many tales to be told about each of the hunters, and so many hunters to tell of, that no two tellings were ever the same. The whole of it in one telling would have taken a week or more. The only sound competing with the gleeman's voice and harp was the crackling of the fires in the fireplaces. Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. To the 8 corners of the world the hunters ride, to the 8 pillars of heaven, where the winds of time blow and fate seizes the mighty and the small alike by the forelock. Now the greatest of the hunters is Rogosh of Talmor, Rogosh Eagle-Eye, famed at the court of the High King, feared on the slopes of Sheol Gul. Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. The hunters were always mighty heroes, all of them. Rand spotted his 2 friends and squeezed onto a place Perrin made for him on the end of their bench. Kitchen smells drifting into the room reminded him that he was hungry, but even the people who had food in front of them gave it little attention. The maids who should have been serving stood entranced, clutching their aprons and looking at the gleeman, and nobody seemed to mind at all. Listening was better than eating, no matter how good the food. Gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. Since the day of her birth has the Dark One marked Blaze as his own, but not of this mind is she. No dark friend, Blaze of Matuchin. Strong as the ash she stands, lithe as the winnow branch, beautiful as the rose. Golden-haired Blaze, ready to die before she yields. But hark! Echoing from the towers of the city, trumpets blare brazen and bold. Her heralds proclaim the arrival of a hero at her court. Drums, thunder, and cymbals sing. Rogosh Eagle-Eye comes to do homage. Gone possible, with this wand. The bargain of Rogosh Eagle-Eye wound its way to an end, but Tom paused only to wet his throat from a mug of ale before launching into Lian's stand. In turn, that was followed by the fall of Aleth Loriel and Guidel Kane's sword, and the last ride of Buad of Albine. The pauses grew longer as the evening wore on, and when Tom exchanged the harp for his flute, everyone knew it was the end of storytelling for the night. 2 men joined Tom with a drum and a hammered dulcimer, but sitting beside the table while he remained atop it. The 3 young men from Eamon's Field began clapping their hands with the first note of "The Wind That Shakes the Willow," and they were not the only ones. It was a favourite in the 2 rivers, and in Baerlon too, it seemed. Here and there voices even took up the words, not so off-key as for anyone to hush them. My love is gone, carried away by the wind that shakes the willow, and all the land is beaten hard by the wind that shakes the willow. But I will hold her close to main heart and dearest memory, and with her strength to steel my soul, her love to warm my heartstrings, I will stand where we once sang, though cold wind shakes the willow. The second song was not so sad. In fact, only one bucket of water seemed even more merry than usual by comparison, which might have been the gleeman's intent. People rushed to clear tables from the floor to make room for dancing and began kicking up their heels until the walls shook from the stomping and whirling. The first dance ended with laughing dancers leaving the floor holding their sides and new people taking their places. Tom played the opening notes of Wild Geese on the Wing, then paused for people to take their places for the reel. "I think I'll try a few steps," Ram said, getting to his feet. Perrin popped up right behind him. Matt was the last to move, and so found himself staying behind to guard the cloaks, along with Rand's sword and Perrin's axe. "Remember, I want to turn too," Matt called after them. The dancers formed two long lines facing each other, men in one, women in the other. First the drum, then the dulcimer took up the beat, and all the dancers began bending their knees in time. The girl across from Rand, her dark hair in braids that made him think of home, gave him a shy smile and then a wink that was not shy at all. Tom's flute leaped into the tune, and Rand moved forward to meet the dark-haired girl. She threw back her head and laughed as he spun her around and passed her on to the next man in line. Everyone in the room was laughing, he thought, as he danced around his next partner, one of the serving maids with her apron flapping wildly. The only unsmiling face he saw was on a man huddled by one of the fireplaces, and that fellow had a scar that crossed his whole face from one temple to the opposite jaw, giving his nose a slant and drawing the corner of his mouth down. The man met his gaze and grimaced, and Rand looked away in embarrassment. Maybe with that scar the fellow could not smile. He caught his next partner as she spun and whirled her in a circle before passing her on. 3 more women danced with him as the music gained speed. Then he was back with the first dark-haired girl for a fast promenade that changed the lines about completely. She was still laughing, and she gave him another wink. The Scarface man was scowling at him. His step faltered and his cheeks grew hot. He had not meant to embarrass the fellow. He really did not think he had stared. He turned to meet his next partner and forgot all about the man. The next woman to dance into his arms was Nynaeve. He stumbled through the steps, almost tripping over his own feet, nearly stepping on hers. She danced gracefully enough to make up for his clumsiness, smiling the while. "I thought you were a better dancer," she laughed as they changed partners. He had only a moment to gather himself before they changed again, and he found himself dancing with Moiraine. If he had thought he was stumble-footed with the wisdom, it was nothing to how he felt with the Sedai. She glided across the floor smoothly, her gown swirling about her. He almost fell twice. She gave him a sympathetic smile, which made it worse rather than helping. It was a relief to go to his next partner in the pattern, even if it was Egwene. He regained some of his poise. After all, he had danced with her for years. Her hair still hung unbraided, but she had gathered it back with a red ribbon. Probably couldn't decide whether to please Moiraine or Nynaeve, he thought sourly. Her lips were parted, and she looked as if she wanted to say something, but she never spoke, and he was not about to speak first. Not after the way she had cut off his earlier attempt in the private dining room. They stared at one another soberly and danced apart without a word. He was glad enough to return to the bench when the reel was done. The music for another dance, a jig, began while he was sitting down. Matt hurried to join in, and Perrin slid onto the bench as he was leaving. "Did you see her?" Perrin began before he was even seated. "Did you?" "Which one?" Rand asked. "The Wisdom or Mistress Alice?" "I danced with both of them. The IE, gone possible. With this wand, gone possible. With this wand." "Mistress Alice too," Perrin exclaimed. "I danced with Nynaeve. I didn't even know she danced. She never does at any of the dances back home." "I wonder," Rand said thoughtfully, "what the women's circle would say about the wisdom dancing. Maybe that's why." Then the music and the clapping and the singing were too loud for any further talk. Rand and Perrin joined in the clapping as the dancers circled the floor. Several times he became aware of the scar-faced man staring at him. The man had a right to be touchy with that scar, but Rand did not see anything he could do now that would not make matters worse. He concentrated on the music and avoided looking at the fellow. The dancing and singing went on into the night. The maids finally did remember their duties. Rand was glad to wolf down some hot stew and bread. Everyone ate where they sat or stood. Rand joined in 3 more dances, and he managed his steps better when he found himself dancing with Nynaeve again and with Moiraine as well. This time they both complimented him on his dancing, which made him stammer. He danced with Egwene again too. She stared at him, dark-eyed and always seeming on the point of speaking, but never saying a word. He was just as silent as she, but he was sure he did not scowl at her, no matter what Mat said when he returned to the bench. Toward midnight, Moiraine left. Egwene, after one harried look from the Aes Sedai to Nynaeve, hurried after her. The Wisdom watched them with an unreadable expression, then deliberately joined in another dance before she left too, with a look as if she had gained a point on the Aes Sedai. Soon Tom was putting his flute into its case and arguing good-naturedly with those who wanted him to stay longer. Lamb came by to gather up Rand and the others. "We have to make an early start," the warder said, leaning close to be heard over the noise, "and we will need all the rest we can get." "There's a fellow been staring at me," Mat said. "A man with a scar across his face. You don't think he could be gone possible with this wand, gone possible with this wand, one of the friends you warned us about?" "Like this," Rand said, drawing a finger across his nose to the corner of his mouth. He stared at me too. He looked around the room. People were drifting away, and most of those still left clustered around Tom. "He's not here now. I saw the man," Lan said. "According to Master Fitch, he's a spy for the Whitecloaks. He's no worry to us." Maybe he was not, but Rand could see something was bothering the warder. Rand glanced at Mat, who had the stiff expression on his face that always meant he was hiding something. A Whitecloak spy. Could Bornhold want to get back at us that much? "We're leaving early," he said. "Really early? Maybe they could be gone before anything came of it." "At first light," the warder replied. As they left the common room, Mat singing snatches of song under his breath, and Perrin stopping now and again to try out a new step he had learned, Tom joined them in high spirits. Lan's face was expressionless as they headed to the stairs. "Where is Nynaeve sleeping?" Mat asked. "Master Fitch said we got the last rooms." "She has a bed," Tom said dryly. "In with Mistress Alice and the girl." Perrin whistled between his teeth, and Mat muttered, "Blood and ashes. I wouldn't be in Egwene's shoes for all the gold in Camelin." Not for the first time, Rand wished Mat could think seriously about something for more than 2 minutes. Their own shoes were not very comfortable right then. "I'm going to get some milk," he said. "Maybe it would help him sleep. Maybe I won't dream tonight." Lan looked at him sharply. "There's something wrong tonight. Don't wander far. And remember, we leave whether you are awake enough to sit your saddle or have to be tied on." The warder started up the stairs. The others followed him, their jollity subdued. Rand stood in the hall alone. After having so many people around, it was lonely indeed. He hurried to the kitchen, where a scullery maid was still on duty. She poured a mug of milk from a big stone crock for him. As he came out of the kitchen drinking, a shape in dull black started toward him down the length of the hall, raising pale hands to toss back the dark cowl that had hidden the face beneath. The cloak hung motionless as the figure moved, and the face, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand, gone possible, with this wand. A man's face, but pasty white, like a slug under a rock, and eyeless. From oily black hair to puffy cheeks, was as smooth as an eggshell. Rand choked, spraying milk. "You are one of them, boy," the Fade said, a hoarse whisper like a file, softly drawn across bone. Dropping the mug, Rand backed away. He wanted to run, but it was all he could do to make his feet take one halting step at a time. He could not break free of that eyeless face. His gaze was held, and his stomach curdled. He tried to shout for help, to scream. His throat was like stone. Every ragged breath hurt. The Fade glided closer, in no hurry. Its strides had a sinuous, deadly grace, like a viper, the resemblance emphasized by the overlapping black plates of armor down its chest. Thin, bloodless lips curved in a cruel smile, made more mocking by the smooth, pale skin where eyes should have been. The voice made Bornhold seem warm and soft. "Where are the others? I know they are here. Speak, boy, and I will let you live." Rand's back struck wood, a wall or a door. He could not make himself look around to see which. Now that his feet had stopped, he could not make them start again. He shivered, watching the murderall slither nearer. His shaking grew harder with every slow stride. "Speak, I say," or... From above came a quick clatter of boots, from the stairs up the hall, and the murderall cut off, whirling. The cloak hung still. For an instant, the Fade's head tilted, as if that eyeless gaze could pierce the wooden wall. A sword appeared in a dead white hand, blade as black as the cloak. The light in the hall seemed to grow dimmer in the presence of that blade. The pounding of boots grew louder, and the Fade spun back to Rand, an almost boneless movement. The black blade rose, narrow lips peeled back in a rictus snarl. Trembling, Rand knew he was going to die. Midnight steel flashed at his head. Gone possible, with this wand. Gone possible, with this wand. And stopped. You belong to the great Lord of the Dark. The breathy grating of that voice sounded like fingernails scratched across a slate. You are his. Spinning in a black blur, the Fade darted down the hall away from Rand. The shadows at the end of the hall reached out and embraced it, and it was gone. Lan leaped down the last stairs, landing with a crash, sword in hand. Rand struggled to find his voice. Fade, he gasped. It was gone possible. With this wand, gone possible, with this wand. Abruptly he remembered his sword. With the murderol facing him, he had never thought of it. He fumbled the heron-marked blade out now, not caring if it was too late. It ran that way. Lan nodded absently. He seemed to be listening to something else. Yes, it's going, fading. No time to pursue it now. We're leaving, sheepherder. More boots stumbled down the stairs. Matt and Perrin and Tom hung about with blankets and saddlebags. Matt was still buckling his bedroll, with his bow awkward under his arm. Leaving? Rand said. Sheathing his sword, he took his things from Tom. Now? In the night. You want to wait for the halfman to come back, sheepherder, the warder said impatiently. For half a dozen of them, it knows where we are now. I will ride with you again, Tom told the warder, if you have no great objections. Too many people remember that I arrived with you. I fear that before tomorrow this will be a bad place to be known as your friend. You can ride with us, or ride to Sheol Ghul, Gleeman. Lan's scabbard rattled from the force with which he rammed his sword home. A stableman came darting past them from the rear door, and then Moiraine appeared with Master Fitch, and behind them Egwene with her bundled shawl in her arms. And Nynaeve. Egwene looked frightened, almost to tears, but the Wisdom's face was a mask of cool anger. You must take this seriously, Moiraine was telling the innkeeper. You will certainly have trouble here by morning. Dark friends, perhaps worse. When it comes, quickly make it clear that we are gone. Offer no resistance. Just let whoever it is know that we left in the night, and they should bother you no further. It is us they are after. Never you worry about trouble, Master Fitch replied jovially. Never a bit. If any come around my inn, trying to make trouble for my guests. Gone possible, with this wand. Gone possible, with this wand. Well, they'll get short shrift from the lads and I. Short shrift. And they'll hear not a word about where you've gone or when, or even if you were ever here. I've no use for that kind. Not a word will be spoken about you by any here. Not a word, but, Mistress Alice, I really must see to your horses if you're going to leave in good order. He pulled loose from her grip on his sleeve and trotted in the direction of the stables. Moiraine sighed vexedly. Stubborn man. He will not listen. You think Trollocs might come here hunting for us? Matt asked. Trollocs, Moiraine snapped. Of course not. There are other things to fear, not the least of which is how we were found. Ignoring Matt's bristle, she went right on. The Fade cannot believe we will remain here now that we know it has found us, but Master Fitch takes dark friends too lightly. He thinks of them as wretches hiding in the shadows, but dark friends can be found in the shops and streets of every city, and in the highest councils too. The murderer may send them to see if he can learn of our plans. She turned on her heel and left, Lan close behind her. As they started for the stable yard, Rand fell in beside Nynaeve. She had her saddlebags and blankets too. So you're coming after all, he said. Min was right. Was there something down here? She asked quietly. She said it was. She stopped abruptly and looked at him. A Fade, he answered. He was amazed that he could say it so calmly. It was in the hall with me, and then Lan came. Nynaeve shrugged her cloak against the wind as they left the inn. Perhaps there is something after you. But I came to see you safely back in Emond's Field, all of you, and I will not leave till that is done. I won't leave you alone with her sort. Lights moved in the stables where the ostlers were saddling the horses. Much, the innkeeper shouted from the stable door where he stood with Moiraine. "Stir your bones!" He turned back to her, appearing to attempt to soothe her rather than really listening when she spoke, though he did it deferentially, with bows interspersed among the orders called to the stablemen. The horses were led out, the stablemen grumbling softly about the hurry and the lateness. Rand held Egwene's bundle, handing it up to her when she was on Baela's back. She looked back at him with wide, fear-filled eyes. At least she doesn't think it's an adventure anymore. He was ashamed as soon as he thought it. She was in danger because of him and the others. Even riding back to Emond's Field alone would be safer than going on. Egwene, gone possible, with this wand. The words died in his mouth. She was too stubborn to just turn back, not after saying she was going all the way to Tar Valon. What about what Min saw? She's part of it. Light, part of what? Egwene, he said, I'm sorry. I can't seem to think straight anymore. She leaned down to grip his hand hard. In the light from the stable, he could see her face clearly. She did not look as frightened as she had. Once they were all mounted, Master Fitch insisted on leading them to the gates, the stablemen lighting the way with their lamps. The round-bellied innkeeper bowed them on their way with assurances that he would keep their secrets and invitations to come again. Much watched them leave as sourly as he had watched them arrive. There was one, Rand thought, who would not give short shrift to anyone, or any kind of shrift. Much would tell the first person who asked him when they had gone and everything else he could think of concerning them. A little distance down the street he looked back. One figure stood, lamp raised high, peering after them. He did not need to see the face to know it was Much. The streets of Baerlon were abandoned at that hour of the night. Only a few faint glimmers here and there escaped tightly closed shutters, and the light of the moon in its last quarter waxed and waned with the wind-driven clouds. Now and again a dog barked as they passed an alleyway, but no other sound disturbed the night except their horses' hooves and the wind whistling across the rooftops. The riders held an even deeper silence, huddled in their cloaks and their own thoughts. The water led the way, as usual, with Moiraine and Egwene close behind. Nynaeve kept near the girl, and the others brought up the rear in a tight cluster. Lan kept the horses moving at a brisk walk. Rand watched the streets around them warily, and he noticed his friends doing the same. Shifting moon shadows recalled the shadows at the end of the hall, the way they had seemed to reach out to the fade. An occasional noise in the distance, like a barrel toppling or another dog barking, jerked every head around. Slowly, bit by bit, as they made their way through the town, they all bunched their horses closer to Lan's black stallion and Moiraine's white mare. At the Camden gate, Lan dismounted and hammered with his fist on the door of a small square stone building squatting against the wall. A weary watchman appeared, rubbing sleepily at his face. As Lan spoke, his sleepiness vanished, and he stared past the warder to the others. "You want to leave?" he exclaimed. "Now? In the night? You must be mad. Unless there is some order from the governor that prohibits our leaving," Moiraine said. She had dismounted as well, but she stayed back from the door, out of the light that spilled into the dark street. "Not exactly, mistress." The watchman peered at her, frowning as he tried to make out her face. "But the gates stay shut from sundown to sunup. No one to come in except in daylight. That's the order. Anyway, there are wolves out there. Killed a dozen cows in the last week. Could kill a man just as easy." "No one to come in, but nothing about leaving," Moiraine said, as if that settled the matter. "You see, we're not asking you to disobey the governor." Lan pressed something into the watchman's hand. "For your trouble," he murmured. "I suppose," the watchman said slowly. He glanced at his hand. Gold glinted before he hastily stuffed it in his pocket. "I suppose leaving wasn't mentioned at that. Just a minute." He stuck his head back inside. "Arin, Dar, get out here and help me open the gate. There's people want to leave. Don't argue. Just do it." Two more of the watch appeared from inside, stopping to stare in sleepy surprise at the party of 8 waiting to leave. Under the first watchman's urgings, they shuffled over to heave at the big wheel that raised the thick bar across the gates, then turned their efforts to cranking the gates open. The crank and ratchet made a rapid clicking sound, but the well-oiled gates swung outward silently. Before they were even a quarter open, though, a cold voice spoke out of the darkness. 5 white-cloaked men walked into the light from the guardhouse door. Their cowls were drawn up to hide their faces, but each man rested his hand on his sword, and the golden suns on their left breasts were a plain announcement of who they were. Matt muttered under his breath. The watchmen stopped their cranking and exchanged uneasy looks. What is this? Are these gates not ordered closed until sunrise? 5 white-cloaked men walked into the light from the guardhouse door. Their cowls were drawn up to hide their faces, but each man rested his hand on his sword, and the golden suns on their left breasts were a plain announcement of who they were. Matt muttered under his breath. The watchmen stopped their cranking and exchanged uneasy looks. "This is none of your affair," the first watchman said belligerently. 5 white hoods turned to regard him, and he finished in a weaker tone. "The children hold no sway here. The governor, the children of the light," the white-cloaked man who had first spoken said softly, "hold sway wherever men walk in the light. Only where the shadow of the Dark One reigns are the children denied, yes?" He swung his hood from the watchman to Lan, then suddenly gave the warder a second, more wary look. The warder had not moved, in fact. He seemed completely at ease. But not many people could look at the children so uncaringly. Lan's stony face could as well have been looking at a bootblack. When the white cloak spoke again, he sounded suspicious. What kind of people want to leave town walls in the night during times like these? With wolves stalking the darkness and the Dark One's handiwork seen flying over the town? He eyed the braided leather band that crossed Lan's forehead and held his long hair back. A Northerner, yes? Rand hunched lower in his saddle. A drag car. It had to be that, unless the man just named anything he did not understand as the Dark One's handiwork. With a fade at the Stag and Lion, he should have expected a drag car, but at the moment he was hardly thinking about it. He thought he recognized the white cloak's voice. "Travelers," Lan replied calmly. "Of no interest to you or yours. Everyone is of interest to the children of the light." Lan shook his head slightly. "Are you really after more trouble with the governor? He has limited your numbers in the town, even had you followed. What will he do when he discovers you're harassing honest citizens at his gates?" He turned to the watchman. "Why have you stopped?" They hesitated, put their hands back on the crank, then hesitated again when the white cloak spoke. "The governor does not know what happens under his nose. There is evil he does not see or smell. But the children of the light see." The watchmen looked at one another, their hands opened and closed, as if regretting the spears left inside the guardhouse. "The children of the light smell the evil." The white cloak's eyes turned to the people on horseback. "We smell it and root it out, wherever it is found." Rand tried to make himself even smaller, but the movement drew the man's attention. "What have we here? Someone who does not wish to be seen? What are you?" "Ah!" The man brushed back the hood of his white cloak, and Rand was looking at the face he had known would be there. Bornhold nodded with obvious satisfaction. "Clearly, watchman, I have saved you from a great disaster. These are dark friends you are about to help escape from the light. You should be reported to your governor for discipline, or perhaps given to the questioners to discover your true intent this night." He paused, eyeing the watchman's fear. It seemed to have no effect on him. "You would not wish that, no? Instead, I will take these ruffians to our camp, that they may be questioned in the light, instead of you, yes? You will take me to your camp, White Cloak." Moraine's voice came suddenly from every direction at once. She had moved back into the night at the children's approach, and shadows clumped around her. "You will question me." Darkness wreathed her as she took a step forward. It made her seem taller. "You will bar my way?" Another step, and Rand gasped. She was taller, her head level with his where he sat on the grey's back. Shadows clung about her face like thunderclouds. "A Sedai!" Bornhold shouted, and 5 swords flashed from their sheaths. "Die!" The other 4 hesitated, but he slashed at her in the same motion that cleared his sword. Rand cried out as Moiraine's staff rose to intercept the blade. That delicately carved wood could not possibly stop hard-swung steel. Sword met staff, and sparks sprayed in a fountain, a hissing roar hurling Bornhold back into his white-cloaked companions. All 5 went down in a heap. Tendrils of smoke rose from Bornhold's sword. On the ground beside him, blade bent at a right angle where it had been melted almost in two. "You dare attack me?" Moraine's voice roared like a whirlwind. Shadows spun in on her, draped her like a hooded cloak. She loomed as high as the town wall. Her eyes glared down, a giant staring at insects. "Go!" Lan shouted. In one lightning move he snatched the reins of Moiraine's mare and leaped into his own saddle. "Now!" he commanded. His shoulders brushed either gate as his stallion tore through the narrow opening like a flung stone. For a moment Rand remained frozen, staring. Moraine's head and shoulders stood above the wall now. Watchmen and children alike cowered away from her, huddling with their backs against the front of the guardhouse. The Aes Sedai's face was lost in the night, but her eyes, as big as full moons, shone with impatience as well as anger when they touched him. Swallowing hard, he booted Cloud in the ribs and galloped after the others. 50 paces from the wall, Lan drew them up, and Rand looked back. Moraine's shadowed shape towered high over the log palisade, head and shoulders a deeper darkness against the night sky, surrounded by a silver nimbus from the hidden moon. As he watched, mouth hanging open, the Aes Sedai stepped over the wall. The gates began swinging shut frantically. As soon as her feet were on the ground outside, she was suddenly her normal size again. "Hold the gates," an unsteady voice shouted inside the wall. Rand thought it was Bornhold. "We must pursue them and take them." But the watchman did not slow the pace of closing. The gates slammed shut, and moments later the bar crashed into place, sealing them. Maybe some of those other Whitecloaks aren't as eager to confront an Aes Sedai as Bornhold. Moiraine hurried to Aldib, stroking the white mare's nose once before she tucked her staff under the girth strap. Rand did not need to look this time to know there was not even a nick in the staff. "You were taller than a giant," Egwene said breathlessly, shifting on Baela's back. No one else spoke, though Mat and Perrin edged their horses away from the Aes Sedai. "Was I?" Moiraine said absently as she swung into her saddle. "I saw you," Egwene protested. "The mind plays tricks in the night. The eye sees what is not there." "This is no time for games," Nynaeve began angrily, but Moiraine cut her off. "No time for games indeed. What we gained at the Stag and Lion we may have lost here." She looked back at the gate and shook her head. "If only I could believe the drag car was on the ground." With a self-deprecatory sniff she added, "Or if only the Myrddraal were truly blind. If I am wishing, I might as well wish for the truly impossible. No matter. They know the way we must go, but with luck we will stay a step ahead of them. Lan." The warder moved off eastward down the Camnin road, and the rest followed close behind, hooves thudding rhythmically on the hard-packed earth. They kept to an easy pace, a fast walk the horses could maintain for hours without any Aes Sedai help. Before they had been even 1 hour on their way, though, Mat cried out, pointing back the way they had come. "Look there!" They all drew rein and stared. Flames lit the night over Baerlon, as if someone had built a house-sized bonfire, tinting the undersides of the cloud with red. Sparks whipped into the sky on the wind. "I warned him," Moiraine said, but he would not take it seriously. Aldib danced sideways, an echo of the Aes Sedai's frustration. He would not take it seriously. "The inn?" Perrin said. "That's the Stag and Lion." "How can you be sure? How far do you want to stretch coincidence?" Tom asked. "It could be the governor's house, but it isn't. And it isn't a warehouse, or somebody's kitchen stove, or your grandmother's haystack." "Perhaps the light shines on us a little this night," Lan said, and Egwene rounded on him angrily. "How can you say that? Poor Master Fitch's inn is burning. People may be hurt." "If they have attacked the inn," Moiraine said, "perhaps our exit from the town and my gone possible with this wand, gone possible with this wand display went unnoticed." "Unless that's what the Myrddraal wants us to think," Lan added. Moiraine nodded in the darkness. "Perhaps. In any case, we must press on. There will be little rest for anyone tonight." "You say that so easily, Moiraine," Nynaeve exclaimed. "What about the people at the inn? People must be hurt, and the innkeeper has lost his livelihood because of you. For all your talk about walking in the light, you're ready to go on without sparing a thought for him. His trouble is because of you. Because of those 3, Lan said angrily. The fire, the injured, the going on, all because of those 3. The fact that the price must be paid is proof that it is worth paying. The Dark One wants those boys of yours, and anything he wants this badly, he must be kept from. Or would you rather let the Fade have them? Be at ease, Lan, Moiraine said. Be at ease. Wisdom, you think I can help Master Fitch and the people at the inn? Well, you are right. Nynaeve started to say something, but Moiraine waved it away and went on. I can go back by myself and give some help. Not too much, of course. That would draw attention to those I helped. Attention they would not thank me for, especially with the Children of the Light in the town. And that would leave only Lan to protect the rest of you. He is very good, but it will take more than him if a Murdral and a fist of Trollocs find you. Of course we could all return, though I doubt I can get all of us back into Baerlon unnoticed. And that would expose all of you to whomever set that fire, not to mention the Whitecloaks. Which alternative would you choose, Wisdom, if you were I? I would do something, Nynaeve muttered unwillingly. And in all probability hand the Dark One his victory, Moiraine replied. Remember what? Who it is that he wants. We are in a war, as surely as anyone in Ghealdan, though thousands fight there, and only 8 of us here. I will have gold sent to Master Fitch, enough to rebuild the Stag and Lion, gold that cannot be traced to Tar Valon, and help for any who were hurt as well. Any more than that will only endanger them. It is far from simple, you see. Lan. The warder turned his horse and took up the road again. From time to time, Rand looked back. Eventually, all he could see was the glow on the clouds, and then even that was lost in the darkness. He hoped Min was all right. All was still pitch dark when the warder finally led them off the packed dirt of the road and dismounted. Rand estimated there were no more than a couple of hours till dawn. They hobbled the horses, still saddled, and made a cold camp. 1 hour, Lan warned, as everyone except him was wrapping up in their blankets. He would stand guard while they slept. 1 hour, and we must be on our way. Silence settled over them. After a few minutes, Mat spoke in a whisper that barely reached Rand. I wonder what Dav did with that badger. Rand shook his head silently, and Mat hesitated. Finally he said, I thought we were safe, you know, Rand. Not a sign of anything since we crossed the Taren, and there we were in a city with walls around us. I thought we were safe, and then that dream, and a fade. Are we ever going to be safe again? Not until we get to Tar Valon, Rand said. That's what she told us. Will we be safe then? Perrin asked softly, and all 3 of them looked to the shadowy mound that was the Aes Sedai. Lan had melded into the darkness. He could have been anywhere. Rand yawned suddenly. The others twitched nervously at the sound. I think we'd better get some sleep, he said. Staying awake won't answer anything. Perrin spoke quietly. She should have done something. No one answered. Rand squirmed onto his side to avoid a root, tried his back, then rolled off of a stone onto his belly and another root. It was not a good campsite they had stopped at, not like the spots the warder had chosen on the way north from the Taren. He fell asleep wondering if the roots digging into his ribs would make him dream, and woke at Lan's touch on his shoulder, ribs aching, and grateful that if any dreams had come, he did not remember them. It was still the dark, just before dawn, but once the blankets were rolled and strapped behind their saddles, Lan had them riding east again. As the sun rose, they made a bleary-eyed breakfast on bread and cheese and water, eating while they rode, huddled in their cloaks against the wind. All except Lan, that is. He ate, but he was not bleary-eyed, and he did not huddle. He had changed back into his shifting cloak, and it whipped around him, fluttering through greys and greens, and the only mind he paid it was to keep it clear of his sword arm. His face remained without expression, but his eyes searched constantly, as if he expected an ambush any moment.